Paris Olympics, Team Kenya had something to smile about. After an impressive 11 medals haul, the team emerged top in Africa and was ranked 17th in the world. No mean feat for the athletes who yet again proved they have what it takes to compete globally. They have the photos here of the medalists. Beatrice Chebet, who got 2 golds. Punachas are now you. Faith Kipyegon, gold and silver medalist. Emmanuel Wanyoni, gold medalist. Faith Cherotich, bronze medalist. Benson Kipruto, bronze medalist. Helen Obiri, bronze medalist. Abraham Kibiwot, bronze medalist. Mary Mora, bronze medalist. Ronald Kwemoy, silver medalists. We celebrate these ones. They are our Kenyan heroes. So, you know, Eliud Kipchoge, we campaigned here and he was awarded the EGH, right? Elder of the Order of the Golden Heart. This is the second highest civilian honor in the country. The highest one is CGH, which goes to the president. Okay? Faith Kipyegon deserves one.
She definitely does, man.
Faith Kipyegon.
In fact, me, I can name. I can name. Faith Kipyegon should get one. Helen Obiri should get one. If you're looking at the number of years Helen Obiri has represented this country, the marathons she has won, okay? If you're talking about keeping the Kenyan flag flying high, Faith,
Dani.
Helen,
Dani.
Yes.
Very good. I agree with you.
You agree with me?
I agree. I completely agree.
This consistency is not at one medal, one race, one.
It's not a one-off.
No. Consistently. These others will get the commendations when they achieve what these two have achieved. Then by all means they should get the.
They should get something. Golden Warrior, something. These two get EGH.
Do we have Silver Warrior?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Silver Warrior.
Golden.
Golden Warrior.
Golden
OGW.
OGW. Oh, the OGW.
OGW.
Oh.
No, it's Grand Warrior. It's Grand Warrior, not Golden.
Grand is good also.
It's Golden Heart.
Golden Heart is wonderful. Grand Warrior is also wonderful.
Warrior, yeah.
But they should get something.
They should get Buana. Senor.
Yes.
The other headlines in the Standard: at 80 and in jail. Life cannot get worse than that. What? Kagame pledges to foster peace. Confusion after court tax order. And then they also have a story here, Rudisha talk that elevated Wanyonyi. Apparently Wanyonyi got some pep talk from David Rudisha, the reigning record holder. Learners call for unity in music festival. Audit shows tribalism at counties is worsening. That is the Standard. What's in the nation? Let me tell you. Inside Kenya's secret money printing deals. Remember this story? We talked about it on Friday.
Yes.
It was highlighted in the Business Daily.
It was.
The government has maintained a veil of secrecy around a new banknote printing deal awarded to a German firm, extending a web of mystery that has masked multi-billion shilling money printing tenders that have come at a heavy cost for Kenyan taxpayers over the years. And the CBK's failure to make full disclosure about the latest venture raises eyebrows and many questions. British currency printer De La Rue closed its local operations last year, and that is just 2 years after Kenya had bought 40% stake in that company.
We raised the same question, and we asked the same question. Thank you very much for writing about it. Because, I mean, and still it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. So that story is there. We'll look at it in detail. They also have put the photos here. The front page photo in the Daily Nation is Kenya's champions at the 2024 Paris Olympics. We have Beatrice Chebet, who won the women's gold in 10,000 and 5,000 meters. Faith Kipyegon, women's 1,500 meters gold, 5,000 meters silver, bronze. Emmanuel Wanyonyi, gold in the mains 800 meters. I mean, all of them. Congratulations to all of them. And then there's another story here. Mystery of 2.2 billion shillings that Courier ordered KEBS to give State Farm. Barely 4 months after the Kenya Kwanza government assumed power, the Kenya Bureau of Standards received a peculiar order from the Ministry of Trade, then headed by Moses Kuria. Kuria stated that the government was seeking to cut reliance on imports and enhance exports. To this end, KEBS was to share its annual revenue with the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, KEPROBA, a separate state body that also gets its annual budget allocations from the National Treasury. So Kuria said, you know what, You Kebs, you give some money to Keproba so that Keproba can export. We're cutting reliance on importation. Basically,
yes.
You see, appropriations are done by Parliament.
There.
Okay? Parliament is the one that appropriates and says, this money goes, because you have applied, we give you this money, Kebs. We give you this money, Keproba. We give you this money, whoever can invest. All those are under MITI. Now, here, this story seems to claim that Moses Kuria reappropriated the budget
to an entity that also had its own budget. Yes.
That has to be explained.
And yet he was called and he did answer.
Okay.
But didn't say very much.
So we will look at the story. How Gachagua outfoxed MPs plotting to impeach him. Why a Kenyan victim of the 1998 bomb blast will pay 8 million shillings to a US agency. This is a very bizarre story. We want to see. We'll look at it. I want my son dead or alive, cries the father. On the morning of June 25th, the streets of Nairobi were ablaze with the fervor of anti-government protests, an outcry that would soon turn into chaos, and for one father, a day that would transition into an endless, harrowing search for his son. To date, he hasn't found his son. Very sad story.
It is an extremely sad story.
Star Business Daily?
Well, not only Business Daily, my friend, and Star. I even have the People.
Very good.
Yes, but let me start with the Business Daily today, shall I? Right. A UAE firm retains 10,000 jobs after Lipton Tea's Kenya buyout. Okay, the United Arab Emirates-based firm has committed to retaining all 10,120 employees in Lipton Teas and Infusion, Kenya, and Limuru Teas as it acquires a controlling stakes in two tea firms with the British company, allaying fears of job losses. So that is supposed to be good news, okay? Miners push Joe to release mineral wealth report. Miners and traders have turned the heat on newly appointed Mining and Blue Economy Cabinet Secretary Hassan Ali Joho to disclose the findings of a multi-billion shilling geophysical survey on Kenya's mineral deposits conducted by the National Intelligence Service to help spur investment in the sector. Let's see how this one pans out. This one will be interesting. Just as we're reading and saying, well, you know, in Central African Republic, they have cobalt, they have diamonds, they have uranium. We'd like to know what else we have. Okay? It would be good
to know.
Yes.
Okay.
We keep hearing, but confirm it for us.
Okay.
Okay? Stanbic taps 5.2 billion shillings loan from DEG for capital boost. This is money that they have from a German fund, DEG, to supplement the capital of its lending subsidiaries. Okay?
Stanbic Bank.
Stanbic, yes. It's holdings, actually.
Okay.
It's $40 million US. Wajua kule interest rate ni kidogo, brother. Si kama hapa. So borrowing is not that difficult. Unless the dollar does a yo-yo for you. Private sector credit growth at a 5-year low. Lending to the private sector by commercial banks grew by 4% in the year June 2024 compared to 13.9% at the beginning of the year, the slowest in 5 years. So that growth is slow.
Yeah.
But there's a growth.
There's growth.
Yes, Nairobi in world's cheapest... Let me just repeat again. Nairobi in world's cheapest cities list on weak shilling. Because shilling is cheap. Okay? Nairobi is cheap.
It's cheap.
According to this story, capital on position. Then I will tell you more about the ranking that they've given here and who it is, the rank that they're given, etc., etc. Nairobi was placed 28 in places to 201 in 2024, meaning fit is mzuri sana. At 2050, we've dropped.
Okay.
We were 173 before, but now inaonekana tumedrop. So maisha ni ngumu. Right. The Star, top right-hand corner in teal green, development agenda. Ruto heads to Kisii after whirlwind tour of Mount Kenya. Stories on page 6. Struggle and return of stranded Kenyan seafarers. That is a story of broken promises. Contract wrangles. Auctioneers give ex-CS Tuju 45 days to clear 4 billion debt. Okay, this story is not about to end tomorrow. even after that 45 days that they've been given. Remember, they gave other days before. So
yes.
And those days lapsed, and the matter continued being discussed. And then it took a twist. So now they've said, okay, twist notwithstanding, in 45 days, sort it out.
Maneno inaenda namna hii.
Biography, how Chandaria stopped Indians from fleeing Kenya. This is a story in the biography. Right. Bang in the middle of the paper, scandal. It was established that 25,000 metric tons of oil was not delivered. How firms made a kill from edible oils.
What?
Audit Audit also found that no proper market survey for feasibility study was conducted. This survey is on page 4 and 5. This Auditor General doing her thing again and saying, you know something? There's a story here, and it's not foreboding well. And as a matter of fact, there are two individuals. One is the managing director, former, of KNTC, the director, Pamela Mutua, and supply chain manager, Amos Shikuku, were taken to court on account of this. Kwenda jibu swali, hii mafuta na kwenda wapi?
Voila.
Oh, yes. I will give you the details of it.
Okay.
Right, and then, of course, in the picture of all these wonderful Kenyans, Kwemoi, Chebet, Wanyonyi, Kibwot, Cherotich, Kipyegon, Obiri, Kipruto, Mora, all these wonderful people.
Fantastic.
And yes.
Fantastic.
And their flag-raising activities.
It's 22 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at the traffic, and then we'll look at some of these stories in detail.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What? My head is aching, shoulders paining, and it's like I'm adding weight very fast.
Now, by the way, see, I thought you are...
Nilifikiri umefanya ile kitu. No, I know what you are thinking. I'm not pregnant. Not now.
Now, when you haven't heard about Aga Khan Hospital, they have a wellness program.
Aga Khan University Hospital has made medical checkups more available through their subsidized wellness package at 9,950 for a comprehensive medical checkup. Don't wait for a health scare. Do your health check at the Aga Khan University Hospital clinics in your neighborhood today. Get your vitals checked today. Call 0111 011 888 for more information.
All right, so it's starting to build up on Thika Superhighway, just that area, the junction with Kiambu Road, as usual. Landis Road is busy entering into town at the retail market, and of course, Wakulima, that whole area of Haile Selassie Avenue is busy. Jogoo Road, busy, and Makadara already it started. Now, North Airport Road around the Southfield Mall, rather, is getting busy, and also as you exit Embakasi. And then as you're heading towards town, it's okay. City of Cabanas is okay. General Motors is a bit of a slowdown at Imara Daima, up the incline towards the General Motors. After that, it's moving. It's also moving very well in Limuru Road, yes. On Langata Road, yes. On Gong Road, yes. Wayaki, we're heading into town, yes. On Outer Ring Road is okay. Juja Road, we shall look at Juja Road shortly. Because Juja Road, as you know, it gets busy at some point. But right now, it's okay.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so mambo iko namna hiyo. Okay? This story of money printing and the German company and whatnot it's a very long story. The government has maintained a veil of secrecy around a new banknote printing deal awarded to a German company, extending a web of mystery that has masked multi-billion shilling money printing tenders that have cost taxpayers over the years. The CBK last week announced changes to banknotes affecting 5 denominations, with the new currency set to be in circulation in the coming months. Pesa yetu ina change. Kuna vitu wanaongeza. Kama 1,000 itakuwa 1,100.
Kama tutakuwa na 2,000. Kama tutakuwa na 5,000. So hakuna haja kubeba note mingi moja.
Ama it has a thing there you can, like you have those tickets for entering a concert. It has a foil and the other one where you can just rarua. Ukipatia mtu 1000 anakupatia anararua change anakupatia. CBK Governor Kamau Thuge avoided questions regarding the contract during a MPC meeting last Wednesday, only saying it was a German firm that is one of the best. On Thursday, the nation sent questions to him seeking the name of the German company, the value of the contract, whether there was a competitive process to select the company, and in the event the tender was single-sourced, the justification for direct procurement. New changes like the signatures of the governor, Dr. Thuge, and the principal secretary, the National Treasury, Dr. Chris Kiptoo, the year of print, now it will be 2024, as well as new security features. They have necessitated the fresh 50, 100, 200, 500 and 1,000 bob banknotes. However, failure to make the full disclosure about the latest venture raises eyebrows. Higher. Wameenda all over the place. Tuna historia yao. But here's the story. That there was, for a long time, a reluctance by the government to renew its deal with De La Rue.
Before or after we bought a 40% stake?
During that whole kafefe, there was a whole issue of whether we were buying or... De La Rue had backed the 10-year contract since independence before the attempt by the outgoing Kanu government to renew the one signed in 1992 that had expired in 2002 December. But the NAC government soon authored its own scandal by avoiding competitive bidding. From 2003 to 2006, when a new contract was signed, an investigation by a parliamentary watchdog exposed how taxpayers had lost 1.8 billion shillings in expensive interim money printing deals. So there was no long 10-year contract. Okay, when they came, the what was it called? NAC government was doing small, short-term contracts. Since 2003, the central bank has been procuring banknotes from De La Rue on interim orders without subjecting them to a competitive procurement process, contrary to government procurement regulations and procedures. That was the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee report following investigations in 2012. These short-term deals would have proved costlier by 1.8 billion shillings compared to a new contract that was later signed in 2006. So in May 2006, following competitive procurement process, De La Rue was awarded another deal for the printing of 1.7 billion pieces of banknotes at a cost of 3.75 billion shillings. Prior to this award, CBK had procured from De La Rue 4 interim orders of current generation banknotes totaling 1.48 billion at a cost of 5.5 billion. 1.4 billion had cost 5.5 billion. This new contract was now for 1.7 billion banknotes. It was costing 3.75 billion shillings. The new longer-term contract was cheaper than those two simple short-term renewals. Are you seeing now where the 1.8 billion that we lost went? Higher. Still, the cheaper 2006 contract for printing new government generation banknotes was also in November 2007 cancelled by the bank on a directive from Amos Kimunya, the Minister for Finance at the time, on grounds that the government intended to enter into a joint venture with De La Rue. So 2007, Kimunya says, cancel this thing. We want to get into joint venture with them. Kimunya had been appointed finance minister in February 2006, following the resignation of Muraria, who quit because of Anglo leasing. Over the years, as the government and De La Rue engaged in tender dramas, the parliamentary investigation revealed the central bank resorted to procuring banknotes from the company at a cost almost double through interim orders. The committee found that De La Rue took advantage of the loopholes to overcharge CBK for the services. The MPs concluded that the then Finance Minister Kimunya and the then CBK Governor Jogona Adongo were responsible for the loss of 1.8 billion shillings. The EACC should investigate them with a view to taking appropriate legal action against them and recovering the lost funds. The two individuals, the Finance Minister and the Treasury boss. No, not Treasury, but the CBK boss. But when they appeared before the committee, Kimunya, who was the finance minister until July 2008, and Professor Ndongo, who served as CBK governor until 2015, defended their action, saying they had done no wrong. Kimunya testified before the committee in April 2012 as a transport minister. He said when he joined Treasury, he was briefed by the then governor, Dr. Andrew Mulei, and his deputy, Jacinta Motela, the permanent secretary, Minister of Finance, and two others that the bank was changing currency designs. He also explained that although De La Rue had received 50% of the 25 million USD down payment for the deal to print 1.7 billion notes, it planned to close down its Waraka plant. The firm wanted assurances on guaranteed Kenyan government business, or else it would relocate its operations to Malta, where it could save on costs. According to Kimunya, this was the basis for negotiations on a joint venture with the Kenyan government and the subsequent directive to CBK to cancel the contract. It's because now De La Rue had said, you know what, you guys are not renewing our contract. You keep giving us these short-term things. We don't know whether there is sustainability. We want to close down this thing. We move to Malta. Kimunya said, okay, no, guys. Now, in fact, watch them above till long-term. What we will do is we will invest in this company. It will be a joint venture. Sawa. So that's what other assurance do we want than us guys entering into the company?
And so we paid.
Yes, India. So we paid money. CBK placed an order for an additional 300 million pieces of existing banknotes from De La Rue at a price of 703 sterling pounds. After fresh tendering, De La Rue bagged a new contract in May 2006 for the 1.7 billion pieces of new generation banknotes at that cost of $51,000. The only other firm to get to the final stage of the tender, according to Professor Ndongo, was Giseke de Vrient of Germany, which had quoted $76 million. $76 million was Germany. De La Rue was $51 million. So, of course, the lowest bidder is De La Rue. So this story basically just goes on and says, this whole game since Kibaki years of December 2002, there was a game afoot. We are not renewing contract. We are signing contract. We are not signing contract. We are getting into joint venture. We are not getting into joint venture. Now they have moved to Germany. Not De La Rue, but the government.
After we got into a joint venture and paid for the 40% shares that we now own in De La Rue, that is no longer printing.
Yes.
So what is De La Rue going to be doing? And what is going to happen to our 40%? Is it also going to move to Malta?
We own the land. Affordable housing to take up.
Why don't you just remove that thing and put a field where people can go and hang out?
Junior, affordable housing. You see hapo hiyo area near Madare? Tutajenga affordable housing hapo.
You know something? There is no government in this country that can actually point a finger at another government and say, this is where the rot began and this is where it settled. Every government in this country has its own rot. Every.
Yeah.
This one comes, goes, you look back, they pulled this stunt, they robbed the country in this way, because it's exactly robbery. There's nothing else you can... And you ensure that, remember, when we were first introduced to the term of budgetary corruption, people who are given the charge and the mandate to oversee and to protect the citizenry are the ones who, it appears, the oversight doesn't quite cover these losses, because if there was oversight, these losses would not exist.
Imagine. So the PSC, the Public Accounts Committee, said EACC should investigate Njuguna Ndongo and Amos Kimunya with a view to charging them and recovering the money. Have you ever heard anything that has gone beyond that?
Nope. The recommendations begin and end right there.
It died. That story just died at that point. That was it.
Story Shapo.
Yes.
And life continued.
Yep. So Njuguna Ndongo comes back, he's heading the treasury, and somebody who had been in the treasury in those days is also now heading the central bank. Same guys.
The person who was PS is now in the central bank. The central bank guy is now the CS.
Yeah.
Okay. So how far do you think this thing is going to go?
De La Rue was just finished.
Well, De La Rue has done its thing, and even these stories of they said they're moving to Malta. Again, I must ask, is our 40% also moving to Malta?
That's important to ask.
Yes. Because when you say the country bought, I am a shareholder. So my shares are moving to Malta without my say-so.
Without your say-so.
Yes. There's something that is in the Business Daily that I need to mention.
Yes, please.
It's actually the headline. It says, why Ruto PSs are sitting on the edge.
Business Daily?
Yes, People Daily. People.
People Daily.
People.
Uh-huh.
After reconstituting his cabinet, fears emerged that President might cascade cleanup to principal secretaries. Now listen to this one. This is going to be a bit of a stinger. And parastatals to quench Raila's appetite for more slots. I told you. People Daily. They're not pulling any punches.
He wants more slots.
Yep. It says reports indicate that President will replace some of them with individuals from ODM. But we had mentioned this anyway. And we had said if the CSs are going to be replaced, PSs be prepared. Yes.
Ukiona cha mwenzako chanelewa.
Bwana we. How many PSs do we have, by the way?
49.
49. Yes, because I remember, you know word on the street that you hear, you can't believe because there's no evidence, but you also don't disregard. Minimum 8. Minimum 8. Oh. And they've decided it is this ministry and this
and
ministry.
We've picked the ministries.
And we're telling you. But you know the question with all these things, I am not too excited about any of these changes. Because the only time I would be excited is if I understood that the executive would actually let these individuals run the show as they ought to. Isn't it? I am not convinced the executive will continue in the tradition that other executives have in this country, where they essentially tell you what to do on a daily basis.
I should have given you the headline of Taifa Leo.
Please, Taifa Leo ni mzuri kabisa baba.
Ruto afunguliwa kamba.
Okay, endelea.
They have a photo here of Kenya Airways sitting on the tarmac and President Ruto, another now superimposed photo of President Ruto smiling, in fact laughing. Maandamano ya Gen Z yaliyotishia kuisambaratisha serikali yake yalimlazimu kusitisha ziara zake nyingi zilizokuwa zimefika 62 katika miezi 20 pekee. Basically, the Gen Zs had basically just put paid to Ruto's trips, which had
halt.
They had hit 62 in 20 months. What?
20 months, 16.
Yes.
Just shy of every month a visit.
Imagine. Kwa mara ya kwanza katika muda wa miezi miwili, rais aondoka nchini kuelekea Rwanda kwa hafla ya Kagame. So he's there for 3 days.
Dealing with the haflas of Kagame.
Dealing with the haflas of Kagame.
Well, hafla is good. Let me tell you this story of the edible oils.
Okay.
How firms made a killing in 161 billion oils deal. Highlights of edible oil audit. These are things that were revealed by the Auditor General and Nancy Gadungu. Highlights of edible oil. This is in the Star. 11 billion unsupported payments for cooking oil suppliers. Okay? Supplier, 10 billion. Whoop. Okay?
Kwisha.
Yes, unsupported. 10 million payment to staff treated as handling charges. 10 million. 60 million for irregular legal costs. This is the 60 million. 90 million irregular distribution costs. Distributing here, take this. 90 million. 309 million unaccounted for tax relief. Tax relief was also given 306. But this money, 306 million, one can't see exactly where it went.
The relief was extended to importers. Of the edible oils.
Yes,
I presume.
yes.
Okay.
All right. 4 non-compliant consignments untraced. Okay. Kenyan obtained no value for money. Suppliers paid you 30 USD per can instead of 23 USD. Okay. But when this thing began, we did ask and say, yeah, we understand and we hear. But again, the same lack of clarity that we keep speaking about was there. Now, the Auditor General has not only spoken about it, but has gone to document it. So it is now official, and people were taken to court. But when you're being taken to court, it means there's evidence to take you to court.
Aye. So this edible oil still is just still playing around. Eh?
It is playing around. Bubbling. But every government in this country, every executive has their scandal. Okay, they usually wait a little bit before, but we've had ours early.
These ones, they ate the oil.
And early, they more or less drank it. But let's wait and see what else will come out, because the Auditor General reveals these things. But this is where the problem lies. Auditor General does her work, the office does their work, and then that's just about it. Yes, there'll be some, this thing might go to court, and then there'll be the story of there wasn't enough evidence. That there wasn't enough evidence story. And yet the stories or the investigations emanate from the Auditor General's report. Are we saying the Auditor General doesn't know what they're talking about?
Hey.
Because all they do is look at books. It's not a guessing game. It's not stargazing. They're not reading tea leaves or entrails. What they're doing is actually looking at figures and saying, this is what happens, the trail is this, and giving a report. That's it. Or are we saying that these reports are insufficient evidence? I still don't understand. Every time I'm told there's insufficient evidence, I fail to understand.
These are games. These are games that are played. I mean, money has gone and we have absolutely no intention. All we do is we pay lip service to these things. We say, we are going to investigate. Look at what we did. COVID billionaires. We are going to leave no stone unturned. In fact, the president ordering that I want a report on my desk in 2 weeks' time, in 30 days' time, in whatever. Nothing. Uhuru left office. Story of COVID. He went with it.
In this country, when he says he wants on his desk, probably it's the desk that moved. So the report came, there was no desk at all.
Okay. It came and found no desk. So now the report now is on the floor.
You actually couldn't. It's on the floor, and it's on the floor. It's very difficult to read. It has to be on the desk.
Yeah, it has to be. It must be on the desk.
Has to be.
And the right president's desk.
Right at the right time.
There's this other story of the 2.2 billion shillings, that there was an order from the Ministry of Trade to KEBS to transfer some of its budgets to Keproba, so that Keproba can now use that money to promote export. And it's a whole story here. We will look at it maybe at some point. We'll look at it.
No, we will look at it even tomorrow. We will give it time and give it a thorough look through.
Yeah.
And maybe get some people who understand these things better to come and help us discuss it.
When Brian Osuna of The Nation called Moses Kuria to ask him about, can you just give some clarity? Moses Kuria told him, look for something useful to do. And disconnected the phone. Ambia serikali kutafutia kazi.
Kama umekosa kazi napigia simu.
Zumbua hapa na masimu. Hauna kazi ya kufanya.
Fanya kazi bwana, tafuta kama una.
It's news time. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Hospitals in Mombasa will start using telemedicine. Saturday, the county organized a conference where stakeholders showcased technology such as mobile apps for e-consultations, e-theater, drones for e-medicine, mobile theaters, and dialysis centers. The county also received donations of 200 kilometers and 50 digital tablets to support the telemedicine initiative.
The the latest news from
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. Yeah. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
So what's happening on the roads? Yes, we know what's happening on the roads. We can see what's happening on the road. Juja Road is actually not looking sober right now. As you approach Moi Air Base, it's okay. As you get towards Ring Road Ngara, it's okay. Thika Superhighway stretching to Survey and threatening to move all the way to Delarue, or the former the land formerly known as Delarue. Okay, sawa. And then Kiambu Road is heading towards Muthaiga Golf Course, heading towards town, but then it will move. You know, Landis Road, you expect what you expect. Jogoo Road, as you approach the City Stadium roundabout, you know what you expect. As you approach Bunyala roundabout from Uhuru Highway and from Aerodrome Road, that is Douglas Okehori Road now, you know what to expect. As you approach Madaraka from Langata Road, you know what to expect. I'm telling you, just know what to expect. Okay? As you are coming towards town and you're on the Mombasa Road, as you get towards Akiba, and that is Bellevue, just know what to expect. It's not so bad though, it's moving. Ngong Road is moving until you get to the lights, and that's where you'll find some issues. And then Uhuru Highway, as you get onto Railways Bridge into town, you will get some traffic. Westlands into town, it's okay. James Gishuru Road is fine.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to...
7. Thank you for tuning in to The Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, setting the agenda and the path of the nation. We're live on SpiceFM, KTN News, KTN Home, YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, Radio Garden, everywhere. City, I got some greetings. There's a lady whom I met over the weekend, and she told me that she listens to the show all the way from Djibouti. She's been around. Her family is here. She comes once every 3 or 4 months, but when she's here, when she's there, it doesn't matter. She tunes into the Situation Room and said, Salimia Siti Nandu.
Thank you very much, sir. She has a name, does she?
She gave me a name. I forgot the name.
But it's all right. The individual whose name Eric has forgotten, we have received the greetings and we thank you for watching the show.
Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm from Djibouti. Asanteni sana. Everybody who also just, comes and approaches us wherever we are and come and say, hi, City, hi. I follow the show.
Actually, now that you mention it, I was also stopped by a certain gentleman. I went to a friend of mine who asked me to have a meal with him at a place called Gecko. Not crocodile.
Oleanda Gecko.
Yes, a place called, yes. No, alikuwa niendi na rafiki yangu. My friend is called David. So, nikaenda huko. Then I visited the necessarium. As I was walking out, this person greets me with both hands and calls me by name. So, as usual, I assume it's a relative or somebody I taught, somebody I worked with, and tell me I watch the show every single day. Okay, in fact, I wake up to watching the show.
Very good.
Said, please say hi to Eric and Ndu. And Ednah, you were mentioned.
Very good.
So, let me also pass those greetings.
Nimepokea salamu kwa moyo mkunjufu.
Asante sana.
Always feels good, when somebody actually just does that. And
actually,
says,
yes, it does. And I told this individual, whose name I have also forgotten, that look, I thank you because if you didn't watch and people like you didn't watch, we wouldn't have a show to speak of.
That's true.
So thank you very, very much for watching.
That's very true.
Yes.
That's very true. For all of you who always do this, asanteni sana. There's somebody who says the Situation Room is where I listen, I follow. SpiceFM keeps me awake almost all night from USA, the only radio station that I can listen to even in my sleep. That is Mato Makandets.
Thank you.
Mato, asante sana. Kila mutu. So this weekend, on Saturday, something was happening. And this was the Community Shield. The Community Shield usually is the winner of the English Premier League and the winner of the FA Cup meet for this tournament. And they play. And that marks the beginning of a new season. All right?
Yes.
So Man U, Man City met and played, went all the way to the penalties, and Man City beat Man U.
Okay.
7-6, I think.
Hey, that's a long game. That's what you call full value for money.
Full value. Full value. That means next weekend, the English Premier League season begins.
Yes.
The 2024-2025 season. As Arsenal
Eric,
say,
you're smiling.
this
I'm
is
watching.
the season.
Yes. As a supporter of a team called Arsenal.
The Arsenal season begins this coming weekend. And you can watch all these games. Okay, you can follow the games as they happen. There'll be live commentary on Radio Maisha, on SpiceFM, on Berur FM. Live commentary as the games are going on, okay? And this is the best way to actually follow the Premier League. You're somewhere and you're thinking, oh, God, I'm far from the screen. Or, no, I don't have access to a screen. It's okay. You have access to radio. Okay? Touch, feel, move with the live football commentaries from the vibrant football presenters and analysts with great predictions. Remember, we have the EPL official broadcast rights in Kenya.
Sisi as Standard Group.
Sisi hapa.
Sisi iko nayo.
Sisi hapa iko nayo. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. So our first conversation for today is as we commemorate the International Youth Day. We have youth in the studio, but we're looking at it from a different angle. Kasmuel Mokaure is an activist and he's here. Kasmuel, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
How are you doing?
Not bad.
Oh, Pole. I have the wrong mic for you. Hold on. I'm going to repeat that again. Kasmuel, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
How are you?
Not bad at all.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing?
Not bad. Yeah.
So we have this photo of our champions,
right?
Our athletes,
yes,
from Paris,
yes,
and you have our athlete from Nairobi in the studio.
Yeah.
You won a gold medal,
man.
A very thorough 50-meter sprint.
I really did.
That isn't a sprint. That's a dash.
That's a dash. Man saw police.
Right.
Man saw opening.
Right.
It's called strategy, bro.
Yeah,
it is.
Strategy.
No, but it was a madness. I feel like that's the only part that made it. That's the only part that made it to the media. Because, people tell us that we need to dialogue and you need to be brave. That's fine. But anytime I tried approaching the cops like this, I would tear gas. And then I just got a bit crazy. I was like, no, man. At this point, we'll figure out better ways to deal with this police force.
Well done.
Yeah.
Understood. It's not service. It's police force.
No, this is not a service. This is a force.
Okay.
Yeah.
City will welcome you with the day's proverb.
Right.
But as it does that, it's important that you know about going for regular medical checkups.
Yeah.
The Aga Khan University Hospital has a message for you, City.
Well, all this tear gas that you keep inhaling, okay, it affects you.
Yes.
If you don't think so, and you think you're fine, even if you know you're fine, it is important to have a medical checkup because a stitch in time saves 9.
Right.
It is better to be safe than sorry. Heri ujue na mapema. You can be young, you can be fit, and you can feel fine. But just to eliminate the slightest of doubt as to any lingering disease, because when you hear of someone suddenly taking ill, there's nothing sudden about it. That illness was there. They didn't know. When you hear of someone who has gone to the HDU direct, that person had an illness that manifested itself in the most severe way possible. All these things can be avoided if you actually take the time and bother. One, look for 9,950 shillings. Look for 10,000, then remove 50. Okay, you have the amount. Then go to any Aga Khan hospital outlet. Any. They will afford you a comprehensive checkup. They will look into the things that could possibly bother you and recommend further tests if there is a need. It doesn't matter how young you are. It is good to go and get checked. It's good to know.
Right.
When you're young, once a year you're good. Now this I recommend. If you're over 40, try twice a year.
Twice a year, eh?
Yes, you never know. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Ball joint in the body. Shock absorber. Thyroid end.
Gasket.
Kwanza that one with all that running. Gasket.
Ukichoma gasket.
Wewe kusha. Wala maji yakaanza kumix. Hiyo gari sasa.
Bas.
Yes.
Okay, the proverb.
We are in the Republic of the Central Africa, otherwise known as the Central African Republic.
Right.
Now, this country has features. There are two that I want to mention to you. There's an index called the Human Development Index, okay? And they say that this particular country, they're looking at the 2022, the index is computed out of 193 countries. Central African Republic was 191. Okay, but among the things they looked at when they looked at the various details, they estimated it as the worst country in the world to live in as a young person. I thought I would just mention this to you.
Wow.
So be glad you don't live there and that you live here. Okay? All right, now the proverb. An elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
An elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
Yes.
What's your interpretation of this one, Kasmo?
Oh man, that's an interesting one. But to me, it sounds as though what would generally trouble a simple mind, what would seem super devastating to a person who's had experience, seems like a small problem because of the magnitude of an elephant, the thickness of its skin, to what we would see if a human were to trample on a thorn. It would be such a huge story. But for an elephant, it's nothing but quite literally a walk in the park. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't know.
That's very well interpreted, extremely well interpreted. Very good, thank you.
That's a very good one.
Yes.
Okay. Before we come into our conversation about, what we call, it started off as Gen Z, but now basically everybody's saying, no, I'm also Gen Z. Actually, let's just call it Kenyan citizens, agitation for better governance.
Right.
Before we get there, who's Kasmuel?
I'm a musician. I'm a pianist specifically, and I'm also a composer. Apart from performing, I'm an educator. I studied finance at the Technical University of Kenya, and I'm a swimmer as well. In a nutshell, that's the stuff I do on a daily, weekly basis, and I also make suits. Yes.
Those are his human activities.
Those are my human activities.
Superhuman activities.
Flash Gordon. How did you get into this movement? Because there's a movement that started,
right?
And it said that it was started, just social media, people coming out and speaking, and it was organized, and people ended up on the streets, and they ended up on the streets, and then we started now seeing people who were vocal and visible and active. You and your suits out on the streets became immediately visible.
Right.
How did you end up on the streets?
I think I've always been a part of agitation, especially, and civil disobedience when it comes to agitating for our rights. I remember being on this seat, although virtually, about 3 years ago, when we were agitating against the lockdown. So consistently, I've always believed in protests and protesting. So this one was no new. It wasn't a different activity. In my head, it wasn't special. I hadn't planned for it. I was going for a protest that was against an oppressive finance bill. And then that morphed into a much bigger thing. The finance bill, I think the finance bill was just a thing of a thing that was much deeper, a rot that was much deeper in the country, and I think that was brewing. But this was gonna be big, and I know this because when we marched in March, the women of the country did a very spectacular march, the best organized protest I've ever witnessed in my life, the march against end femicide. And this is how I knew that there was something big coming. Yeah, and just the organization, the consistency, and the whatnot.
You attended that march?
I did. I attended that march as well. And we were singing and chanting, and I got a bit of heat, and I was like, no, we have a femicide problem. And that's also a thing that has not been resolved, even within this current situation. There's a very jarring report that should come out around just the cases of femicide, even in relation to Kware, because Kware also came up in this movement. Yeah, so that's how it happened. For me, it was just, I believe in marching for a fair and just society. And I think that whatever cause it is we're marching is a righteous and just cause. Yeah.
So you say, and many people have actually said this, even here we've said,
yes,
that the finance bill appeared to have been a trigger. Right. But it was something that was bubbling under. There was a feeling of, discomfort with government and, just wanting things to get better.
Yes.
And the finance bill provided an avenue for people just to come together and gravitate.
Yes.
Since then, what has it become?
I don't think it has become anything, or I think it's just entering the fullness of its manifestation, where, for example, if the finance was a scab and there was a rot or a cancer down there, it's an exploration of whatever the discussed or the bigger issue is. It's still, and it's a thing that I still believe in. I think the movement has just but begun, but there's also the role of propaganda and misinformation within the movement. There's also people trying to settle personal scores. There's also people who are in there to raise money, and that's part of what I think greatly did a great disservice and injustice to the movement. And a lot of the time when people talk about Nane Nane, which was recently, it was supposed to be very big, but if you think about the things that transpired, by the time people were getting to Nane Nane, state had already caught up with the fact that they could sponsor hashtags and people to just sponsor a totally different agenda. There was censorship very heavily. There was barring from people to get into town. But also, just within the citizens, there are people who sought to have private gain in the name of the collective. So there are people who will just sit down somewhere because they can design a poster. They let out the poster and they know that they can play into the anger of Kenyans and the collective dissatisfaction in the public. So if I were to debrief Nane Nane, if it were totally up to me, knowing what I knew just the evening before, we would have called it off. But
Wednesday night?
Yes, on Wednesday night. Just seeing and knowing that there are people who just were doing this for the sake of chaos. They were just doing it for the sake of protests and sustained protests because that made them money. On the protesters' side, this is not even on state.
How are they making money?
So, when we have, I don't want to call it civil unrest, but when we have these activities that require mobilization, especially against state, there are certain progressive organizations that are willing to give people money for that. And that's why I think if I were to do it differently, the only reason I marched for Nane Nane was for the people who actually believe in the cause. There are comrades who would come from Kibra. They would walk from Kibra, guys would walk from Githurai. And you want to tell me that now we're calling off this thing? Make it make sense. Because remember, there are also very many detractors, people who just came into the wave, rode the wave, and just let it go. I was doing it for these university students. I had a university student who sent me, a guy called David, who sent me 100 shillings and said, I'm sorry, I can't make it on the street, but go and march. There are people who actually truly believe in the cause and what it is that we were doing. But there was an individualism towards it that greatly took away from the movement. That would be my analysis of it. Yeah.
What would you say the cause is?
Just the three main points that we've been talking about: corruption, bad governance, and lack of accountability. Those permeate into all the sectors that we have problems with. When kids go hungry, or when young people cannot get identification cards in time, or passports, things that people applied for months prior. And just, it's a politicization of things which government is supposed to be doing. And we have government officials looking at us and telling us maybe we have a PR or a communication problem. And we're like, no. The people look at us, young people, and say, oh, you should give the president time because he's made certain concessions. And we're like, if you're going to be altruistic about it, then no concessions have been made. And everybody but the people who've lost lives are being called to table. And we were not calling for dialogue. We were not even asking for positions. What we were doing was saying, do this right. And we refuse to be the generation that will applaud a fish for swimming. We just say, if this is what you were mandated to do, just do it.
But what you've just said, you've actually said something very profound.
Right.
See, yes, there was the Ruto must go chant.
Yes.
But then there's the narrative of you're saying, do it right. Meaning, you are in power, you're still there. Just do what you're supposed to do. Forget this going. You do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
That's it.
Absolutely. Because even if you realize that it was an under-babbling hashtag, but it was a very small one. When we were doing this, we actually gave this man a chance to do it right. We gave him a chance to give us an efficient cabinet, which he did not do. We gave him a chance to fix the country, because the president has the powers to end tribal appointments in government. He has the power to crack down on graft. And when now he showed us that he was not interested, then the chant became a thing. We were not interested. People would look at it and and think we were angling for positions in government. We were angling for appointments. No. We said, put the right people in the places, do the right thing because you committed to it. And as the Swahili people say, maji ukiyavulia nguo lazima uyakoge. It's nothing but plain and simple. We insisted, now that you're in power, do this thing. So the thing that got people angry is the hubris. It seemed as though he was not interested in doing it. And then now we were just like, then clearly if you can't stand the heat in the kitchen, just step aside and let a person who's more efficient do it.
The very call to speak, as they say, to power and to tell the government you're not doing this thing right. You were essentially, this was a David versus Goliath story in this sense.
Yeah.
The president comes in as the executive, the CEO of the country, against a backdrop of presidents who have done exactly what he's doing, meaning doing exactly what he wants.
Right.
Okay. We had a bit of a break, a bit of a break.
Right.
Within the Kibaki government. Every government has these spots where you get the impression, yes, they're listening, but by and large, they don't listen.
Right.
Now, when you are putting pressure and hoping that right would be done by the citizenry, what was the plan for what we now have when the government has shown you with great clarity that they have no intention whatsoever of doing what it is that you asked for?
Right. I think that's very interesting because a few weeks ago, I don't think I would have answered it clearly because our greatest strength has always been the leaderlessness, but it has also been one of our opportunity areas to rethink our organization. Because at that point, anybody who who agreed that this government is wrong was clearly on our side. However, we did not have one clear plan. We didn't say that maybe Casmel had these ideas, these other people had these ideas, but it is very important, as it has proven to be very important the past maybe 2 weeks, the importance of organizing and mobilizing around collectives. Because the collectives at the grassroots level are the things where now we go and listen to the people. When we go to Bunge la Mwananchi, you go and actually collect the views. When it started, we were just doing this and we had that holy rage and we were doing it from an individual standpoint. So I would go and find a scandal and say, this is it. If I'm going to be very honest, we, especially after occupying Parliament, we had enough momentum and we did not think that the government would retreat to whatever it usually retreats to. And not because we were being bad students of history, but because we had taken such a great forward leap into the fabric of time that we felt as though then we were ready for this course to change. And it seemed, as you aptly put it, that the regime was listening. However, I don't want to speak of it as though it has died. We know that these kinds of struggles are protracted struggles. In 1952, it took 8 years back then. So I think those are part of the areas now we've learned, and now we know this is how to deal with the government. So it's just a matter of ensuring that we apply constant pressure. The form is where now we will have to see, what avenue do we take in terms of sustainability?
We wondered aloud in this studio and said, okay, let's take the view that the government actually does listen and said, okay, we are winding up.
Right.
Then where would we have been? Because nature was a vacuum.
Yes.
What would have happened?
So I think, and that's an interesting question. It used to, I think, anger me when I would be asked earlier, because it's the what next question.
It has to be asked.
Yes, which is, and as I think about it, it's an important question. Because not only does nature abhor a vacuum, but we have a whole country that is supporting you. It just will not entrust its future to people who seem as though they do not have a plan.
Yeah.
And I think very recently I came out clearly to say that our intention was to have a transition government that will lead us to the new republic, that we would outsource for stakeholders in like a multi-sectoral stakeholder, and we'd have people from the Council of Churches and religious leaders and those kinds of things. And then these people who would serve in this transitional government would not be in the government of the new republic.
Are you aware that every grouping you've mentioned think exactly like the people who are in power?
Right.
Are you aware?
I was about to say.
Right.
What you've just said is what the president had proposed.
That's what he had proposed.
150, bringing together all those multi-sector people.
Yes.
Meet at Bomas.
Right.
And chart a way forward.
For us, it was not going to be chart a way forward. It was to take care of the country, of that vacuum problem that people were talking about. However, that was the alternative.
Yeah.
The constitution itself, as it stands right now, is the biggest Ruto must go hashtag. Because everything, this Ruto must go demand, I know I will not be jailed if I say Ruto must go, in the sense that we know that CJ Emeritus in 2020 or 21, September 21st, advised the then President Uhuru to dissolve Parliament because it sat unconstitutionally and had not attained that two-third gender rule threshold. This current legislative house, as it is, still does not meet the threshold, and Parliament should be dissolved ad perpetuum until it attains that threshold. So we know that as it stands, and this is not a subject to litigation. You cannot now go and litigate it at the High Court when the advisory came from the Chief Justice. In the Constitution, the President should dissolve Parliament, and the dissolution of Parliament should call for a general election. It is, in effect, his own resignation. And that should happen ad perpetuum. So if we were just to sit down and say, follow the Constitution, if I just said Ruto must go, it is equivalent. The synonym is follow the Constitution, synonym is all these things. Because then if we do not have a legislative house sitting at that number, he's not beholden to have a cabinet that sits at that number, or PSs, or heads of parastatals. So if constitutionally, I don't see where the vacuum would have arisen from if he resigned.
Consider, for instance, that it's not just the political class, the citizenry. You see, for any government to survive, it means that the citizenry, for whatever reason, are either in compliance or they've given up or there's apathy. You call it what you want, but they're more or less moving along.
Right.
Now, since we're talking about the Constitution, let's talk about the Constitution. And yes, indeed, the Constitution doesn't really allow for a vacuum.
Right.
If, again, by saying that ODM has actually joined the government, yet the leader says they have not joined.
Right.
It's these individuals who have joined.
Right.
Okay, we hear it. Don't you think that even as you talk about these groupings of yours, that perhaps it is time that the gathering of young people and the gathering of like-minded people right across the country started thinking of how else they can actually formally constitute to challenge, first of all, their own counties, and then bring the challenge at the national level? Because the protest showed their support.
Yes.
The Constitution allows you to have a constituent gathering.
Yes.
You do not need to be elected in the formal way through the IEBC.
Right.
Consensus is adequate.
Yes.
Because this is what these are the groupings are. You didn't ask them to go and register.
No.
No, the Bungala Wananchi, is it registered?
Kind of.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of registered. But all those people who come there, does anybody pay them to come?
No way.
No. Is it a place that is recognized, that views can be aired?
Yes.
Why am I saying this? It doesn't matter what one likes. It doesn't matter how good one is. An element of a formal structure must always exist.
That is right.
Otherwise, the power that you have will simply dissipate.
That's true.
Yes, and I think this is something you've understood.
Absolutely.
But let me just say this. There's more learning to take place.
Yes.
Okay? There's more learning to take place because in this room we also asked, let's take the view that some of these youthful individuals were actually given positions of authority and power. How different would they be from the people that they're fighting against?
I think in this government, that's why consistently we've said, personally, I've said I would not accept a position from this particular government because it would be falling on a sword that's not even my own. Because it's a government that you do not operate as an individual. It's a government that's obsessed with control. That's why even in the sporting talent, you realize that our best sportsmen are either policemen or servicemen and women, in the sense that that's why we have all these medals, but how many sports academies do we have? Yes, everyone is basically congratulating all our heroes in Paris, but we have the billionaires who looted from our stadia. So it's for this particular government, you cannot effect change. And that's why we're saying we need a total overhaul of the system. Because however good I would present myself, the moment I get into an appointive position from this particular government, knowing that this is how it works, knowing what we know from even the former Attorney General who said, the legal advice is just like traffic rules in Kenya. They're just merely suggestions not to be followed. It would not have worked for us. So, I mean, that's why we were coming from with the whole drain the swamp, clean up the entire system. Yeah.
Change the whole thing.
Yes.
Bottom up.
Right.
26 minutes to 8. Conversation will continue shortly. Let's take this break. Our guest is Kasmuel Makaure. They're saying Kasmuel Omanyala, Wanyonyi. He's an activist. He's a pianist. He's a composer. He is, so what are you now? A designer, tailor?
A human being, a Kenyan. You know Kenyans are everything.
It's called multi-talented.
Multi-talented.
Yes, multi-passionate, multifaceted.
This one, eh? Yes. We'll be back shortly. Keep it here.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What? My head is aching, shoulders paining, and it's like I'm adding weight very fast.
Now, by the way, see, I thought you are...
Nilifikiri umefanya ile kitu.
No, I know what you are thinking. I'm not pregnant. Not now.
Now, when you haven't heard about Aga Khan Hospital, they have a wellness program.
Aga Khan University Hospital has made medical checkups more available through their subsidized wellness package at 9,950 for a comprehensive medical checkup. Don't wait for a health scare. Do your health check at the Aga Khan University Hospital clinics in your neighborhood today. Get your vitals checked today. Call 0111 011 888 for more information. Good news for the soccer lovers across Kenya. Very soon your lifestyle will never be the same. Crazy memories of the lively football matches.
Happening every week.
Introducing the new season of the English Premier League football matches.
Another gem of a goal!
Starting on the 16th of August 2024, exclusively on SpiceFM. Catch the upscaled, heart-throbbing season's football commentaries from the ever-zealous soccer commentators and presenters. EPL, Soka Katambe. Only on SpiceFM.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's warming up. No, it's actually getting colder. It was 14 degrees earlier in Nairobi. It's now 13 degrees and cloudy in Nairobi. Malindi is also cloudy, 25. Kisumu is cloudy at 21. Nyeri is cloudy at 14. Nakuru is partly sunny at 15. Kakamega is mostly sunny at 18. Eldoret is partly sunny at 14. Mombasa is partly sunny at 23. Kampala sunny at 19. Kinshasa mostly cloudy at 21. Dar es Salaam cloudy at 23. Addis cloudy at 13. Mogadishu sunny at 26. Lagos cloudy at 25. Clear skies in Johannesburg at 8. Beijing is sunny at 30. Paris is cloudy at 20. London is cloudy at 19. And New York, it's clear skies at 22.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
You're coming from Utawala, you're on the Eastern Bypass. You'll find some traffic as you get onto the junction with North Airport Road. After Embakasi, North Airport Road gets busy all the way to City Cabanas and that interchange that joins you into Mombasa Road. And then when you get to Mombasa Road, Imara Daima will be busy. Up the Railways Bridge into the Enterprise interchange at General Motors. And then after that, it clears. When you get to South Sea, you'll find more traffic as you approach Bellevue, and then you will get more traffic as you approach Nyayo Stadium roundabout, into Bunyala roundabout, into Uhuru Highway, up Railways Bridge, into Haile Selassie roundabout. That also then applies to those who are using Aerodrome Road and those who are getting onto Lusaka Road through Langata Road. How is Langata Road itself looking? It's okay, apart from those sections we've talked about. Even Ngong Road is okay until you get to Prestige, where you find a bit of traffic. Thika Superhighway, it stretches all the way to near Outer Ring Road Junction, and Kiambu Road is going all the way to DCI headquarters. Limuru Road is moving, but it's getting busy around Karura area as you move up towards UN Avenue. Westlands towards town is okay, and James Gishuru Road is starting to look busy, but it is also moving. Anything that you think we need to talk about, tag us on X at SpiceFMKE.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
So our conversation continues with Kasmol Mokaure, who is an activist. We are talking about the accountability that the youth have been demanding of government. Kasmol, we talk about youth. So it started off, just like what we saw in March, which was the femicide movement, the end femicide march. People just came because there was something they were agitating towards.
Right.
This time again, it started because finance bill and the effect and direct impact it was going to have on the youth. People came out. And then thereafter, it moved into, okay, by the way, actually, let's demand more accountability for the things that are happening. Of course, because being leaderless, because of all these things, then you start having various camps emerging. That shows you, even if it wasn't about infiltration by nefarious forces, it just shows you that this is not homogeneous. Yes, you're all thinking the same thing, you're all demanding the same thing, but your solution, your formula towards the solution is different. One is using pi d, the other one is using 2 pi r. You're all solving the circumference of a circle, but you're approaching it differently.
Yes.
So how then would this come back together into one? Should it even come back together into one thing?
I think the goal is unity, not oneness. The differences in approach, that makes it beautiful, makes it diverse, and it gives us more opportunities to explore different solutions. And as it morphs, there are people who will specialize and go into like different directions in terms of what we think the problem areas are. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be one thing, because eventually we are in agreement that the one thing that unites us is we want a better Kenya for all of us. We want a Kenya where we have opportunities, where children have food in their bellies, where there's no corruption, where you can get a job in government regardless of your surname. So it does not necessarily it doesn't necessarily have to be us saying the same thing same time, but we're united by our problems. But we'll get to a point when we sort out these problems which are at the basic level, then I think it will continue to grow outwards, because as it stands, nothing has happened. It just seems as though it's become softer, but we are all still saying the same things. We're still saying, give us the IDs and the passports. We do stop exporting us for cheap labor, because what's the difference between that and slavery? We're saying, stop using our money as though it were your private money. We're saying the people who took loans in our names should pay, and did not tie them to a particular development project, should pay them the way they took it. So we're about all these things, we are in agreement. It's just that you'll find some people say, oh, now you need to have a leader. Some people, those are I feel like those are the superficial problems. These are things which can be sorted out without even listening to those voices. Yeah.
But you see, those challenges have always been there.
Yes.
Even before the finance bill protests, those challenges were there. And there was, a common understanding that, we need better governance.
Right.
We need better leadership.
Right.
And it comes up every time there's an election. People are like, we are looking for a better leader, better solution, better way of moving. We just don't see that we are recycling the same people.
Right.
But, this has helped us to see that as well.
Yes.
If you do not have a sustained voice, like we saw in May, June, then we may just get back into May, June last year.
Right.
Where, it was the same issues. People are saying we need IDs, we need passports, we need job opportunities, we need a government that serves the people, we need a government that listens, we need our debts to be audited, and we need all those questions were there.
Right.
How do you sustain this?
I think, and I'm very optimistic when I say that the thing has not died in any way, shape, or form, in the sense that we are currently organizing at the grassroots levels, at community centers, where you don't now have to be in Nairobi. Bunge la Mwananchi could attend it from anywhere. We're going through those bunges and first listening to the people. When you have an opportunity, you go and present these petition, this form, wherever it is that you're going to be. And we've seen that the government is also very keen, because before we did Nane Nane, on Wednesday and Tuesday, we had, on Wednesday specifically, we had about 10 people's assemblies. And they were all violently dispersed. We'd have cases of police raiding social justice centers, the offices. We've had individuals who we've had to even move from their houses because they've been directly targeted. So it cannot die, because they structure at those community levels. At the social justice centers, there are very clear structures. And that's why I keep on insisting on, you have to submit to a collective. You will not, at this point, for us to keep on going with the change that we're agitating for, you will not just be allowed to put out a poster because you are a graphic designer or because you have 100,000 followers on X. We will not allow it. We've said, submit yourself to a collective. Go and say, this is my idea. Then the people are going to tell you whether or not we are marching forward. Because right now, you've seen a lot of people are now putting out posters saying, Mandamano yesterday, Mandamano today. Now you expect, and this is the expectation, that these leading voices should be there. So there's a young person who's saying, Casmo, give me direction. And I'm like, no, do not go for that protest, because these are innocent children. And we've seen that the police force is not willing to deal with these people as unarmed citizens. You saw when we were in court on Friday, we spent the entire day. And I saw a lot of people asking, do these people look like anarchists? Because we actually occupied the courts. And the thing that the government did is... what happened on Nane Nane, people were lifted off the streets very early. I know a friend who activated for only 20 minutes, and then he called me. He's like, man, we are lying flat-footed and we're being taken to Central.
Wow.
However, they bundled up all the leading voices, about 104 young people who previously did not know each other. These people spent a night in the cell, so there's camaraderie, and we spent an entire day in court. Now we know each other, and we know exactly how to find each other. So in my head, the way I see it, I was like, I previously thought that I was the only one who could make this noise. I've met 100 more. So to me, it just has begun. It's just but begun. So we will organize at community level. We will not allow people to just use this movement for their own clout, because there are people who are using it to chase clout.
But how do you know that? When you say we will not allow, how do you know? How do you come to me and tell me that no, you have a different agenda from me?
I'll ask you, what collective are you a part of? Because
why should I be in a collective?
I think you should be in a collective if we're looking for the common good. So, for example, you might have your ID. I have my ID, but I'm fighting for people who do not have IDs. I can't just, you can't do it nefariously, so to speak. There are people who just think that this is an agenda, like people who go to protest by themselves. That is also very welcome, but you will not ask the whole nation to occupy a thing. For example, like people who are saying occupy State House. People who are even saying occupy State House on Wednesday this week. You're saying it as who? I've seen a person who put out the poster, and now I ask them, as who? Are you a part of a collective? Because you cannot now lead people's children to a place, because we've said very clearly that there are various grassroots organizations, and they're very close, they're not too far. You can join. There are very many social justice centers. Go there, because these are people who've been doing this for their entire lives. There are people who've just hopped onto this thing because it's the latest trend. So it's very easy to know these leading voices. We are saying you're one of the leading voices here on socials. You will use your socials responsibly, because if we are holding these politicians to the same account, we cannot be playing. Because what about the people who've been benefiting from these demonstrations? They are in effect no different from these politicians, because people have died and you've lined your pockets with donor money, and we know them. So that's now why we are saying, and I can say this authoritatively, because when I speak, I'm not speaking on my own. I'm speaking as part of a collective, a person who submitted themselves. And I was doing this as a solo person. And they asked me, how can you do it alone? There's a group where you can find support, where you can find literature, where we can educate ourselves on political thought. Because the challenge we had even when we were starting, people just thought Gen Zs are people who will get onto a space, throw a few F-bombs here and there, and then go. But we are not politically vacuous. We know very well that this is what we want for the healthcare sector. These are the people we want to emulate. This is the kind of vision we have, and it works better if we submit ourselves to a collective.
What are these collectives? Which one do you belong to?
Now, there's a merger between Mathare Social Justice Center, Dandora, Kasarani, and all over the country. And so especially here in Nairobi, so those are ones which I'm submitting myself to attend these meetings, and we talk at community level. So we go into the town halls, and we sit down and we say, these are the things that are assailing us, and these are the actions that we intend to take. So currently that collection is about 49 little collectives which have met in Nairobi.
So social justice centers
and grassroots organizations. Yes, about 49 of them that now are currently meeting, and that will even be meeting. We'll be meeting later today to one debrief on Nane and discuss steps forward.
Can people belong to any other? Can I form a collective?
Yes.
So I can come out and actually release some social media posters and say, I am going to town on Wednesday. If you'd like, join me.
But you have to tell us as who?
As Eric.
Yes,
as a citizen, as an active citizen.
So as an active
I want to
citizen.
go out and I want to say that if you are interested, come and join me.
Yes.
We shall be meeting in Uhuru Park on Wednesday at 2 p.m.
Right. Yes.
So then you can ask me who I am. I'll tell you, I'm Eric. I have every right to call out people just as much as you do.
You absolutely do. But then what we'll question is the agenda. And then now, yes, as much as you have the right, we also have the right to see whether or not we will join that protest. Yeah, so as a collective, we're not gatekeeping or policing. We're looking for what has the best interest of the people at heart. Because I'll give you an example.
That is gatekeeping.
Oh, it is. Yes. Whatever.
Gatekeeping isn't a negative thing.
Yeah.
In any setup, there has to be some form of order.
Right.
It just can't be helter-skelter. You'll achieve nothing.
That's the...
What? No, sorry, that statement is not correct. You'll achieve a lot of noise.
Right.
But what it is that you purport and you claim to seek, you will certainly not achieve.
Right.
You see, I'm listening to you, and I'm listening to the one thing that I've heard consistently, and which makes a heck of a lot of sense. Constantly referencing the Constitution.
Yes.
But beyond the Constitution, there's something called statecraft.
Yes.
This animal you're fighting is not an individual. It's also a collective.
Yes.
And this collective has a way in which it functions. Now, they seem to be taking time to understand how you function. Are you taking time to understand how they function?
Now we are. Now we are in the sense that even the politicians who are coming up as activists, for example, they seem to have very little effect to what their collective is.
Be careful. Politicians are a bit unreliable.
Yes, that's what we're saying. If in the state machinery, in the state machinery, their activism seems to do very little against their movement.
No. In this country, no. The musical chairs that they play with every season and with every presidential season, government season, tells you exactly what they are. I am actually talking about the mandarins in government.
Yes.
You're talking PS, you're talking director, you're talking what? How government works.
Right.
There's a way in which it works.
Yes.
And it's something that is studied and you need to understand it.
Right.
In understanding it, you may be able to now think about fostering change.
Yes.
Among the groupings that you have, there are people who have political ambitions.
Yes.
It is absolutely useless if you have political ambition, in my opinion, and you don't understand how this thing you want to get into.
Right.
Forget the Kenyan politics, the way you say this. Put that aside.
Yeah.
You've seen how that way it gets us.
Yes.
Actually understanding. If today the president woke up and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. With these PSs, we want to bring in some 10 youths.
Yes.
10.
Yes.
You'll be taken through some process of understanding how things work.
Right.
Wouldn't it be better if you actually understood it before you got there?
It really would.
Or among your people, so you know this is what needs to be done. Because you can make a political appointment.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't understand statecraft, man, circles will be run around you.
Absolutely.
And very little will actually move in your docket.
Yes.
It's what happens with many ministers.
Yes.
So they come with the ideas, all right.
Right.
But it's not them who really run the show.
It's true.
They appear to, but they don't really run the show.
Right.
Now, the numbers that the group you belong to present, close to 35 and under, close to 70% of the voting population. This is not a ticking time bomb. This is a ticking nuclear bomb.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
It is huge. Now, the focus on how these numbers can actually be utilized, should that not be at the center of your discussion? Not just arming it so that you are seen to be challenging the government, but seen to be actually seeking to understand how a better government ought to be and tooling yourselves for that better government.
Right. And I think we actually are doing that with our civic education programs, translating bills and the constitution into various vernacular languages, trying to overcome this monster that is tribalism.
Yep.
And you know, with this government of national unity, it sets the state back to those tribal cocoons, because there seems to be a sort of appeasement when it comes to those tribal allegiances. But there's something very impactful that you've said, CT, in terms of understanding that the state and its craft, it's a system that works so well that even the people who seem like outliers do not affect its inner workings.
No.
So anyone who's come out vocally, who's a politician, who's come out vocally and bashed the state, has done nothing to how the state works. It's the same thing which now is saying we will need to consider that even if we need to figure out how the collective works, and the elite we actually have, such that if one outlier comes out with these new strange heretic ideas, it will not affect the general collective good, because what we are looking for in vain terms is a superior happiness of our people, the utmost superior life for the people that we represent. So if you come out with a thing which we think is nefarious, if we know that this man is doing this thing for funding, we will tell the people of the collective, hey, listen, do not send your children there. Because I will give you a story where someone has fundraised and we know that they have received the money and there is proof. And instead of them bringing the money to the collective, they say, approach a few individuals and ask them, how many t-shirts do you want? And do all these kinds of things, just as politicians would.
Okay.
And so those are some of the individuals, because we know them. We've said, now if you do not submit to the collective, go and take your games over there. Because what we're doing it involves lives. Anytime we go,
what effect does that have? Okay, so the person is fundraising.
Yeah.
They receive some support.
Right.
They purchase t-shirts, they distribute t-shirts.
Yes.
It's only that they have not come to this collective to report.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
You know, the beautiful thing is these people have the money, but they do not have the influence or the people. It's the collectives that have the people. It's the collective that has the generals who are willing to set boots on the streets. Yeah, so you might have the money, but I dare you to go out there and bring a crowd of 100.
See, herein you have a microcosm of what would happen if Gen Zs were in parliament, they were cabinet ministers, and even the president.
Yes.
This thing is just discussed.
Yes.
And you would take us in directions that are even far more disastrous than what the president seems to be taking us to. right now?
I oppose it because we've not participated in mass murder.
I'll tell you what.
Right.
Not yet.
Yes.
Because you haven't gotten the levers of power.
Yes.
So what it is saying is that if you got the levers of power,
yes.
and some of you would then be able to go and mobilize some resources to come and use on one side, and others.
It's a microcosm.
Yes, I see exactly
what
what
do you
mean.
think these people whom we keep saying seem to be thickening our eyes and ears with this morbid display of ill-gotten gains? What do you think that is? It's exactly that.
Right.
That's the limitation that they have currently.
Yes.
Imagine what they would do if they had a position.
Right. I see exactly what you mean. And that's why I think on the break I was saying that it's taking if you hear us talk about it, we talk about it in a socialistic, almost communistic point of view when we're talking about the leaderlessness, the formlessness. But it's because the limelight is not on those people.
Those movements, my brother, had leaders. Believe me.
No, absolutely.
And there's not. Again, let me repeat something which I think is important to be said. Everything you've told us so far is actually good.
Right.
Nothing wrong with having begun as that leaderless thing, because we were of the opinion you're not leaderless. At least that was my opinion.
Right.
There is nothing like a leaderless group. There may not be someone standing on a rostrum saying, I am the leader.
Right.
There are influencers.
Yes, there are dominant voices that are heard.
Right.
That's leadership.
Yes, it is. It is, and it absolutely so. So I think, and that's why we said when we started, we were united by the leading idea, and they were amplified by the leading voices, and that will continue, and it permeates
in the various spaces.
Yes, in the various spaces, it still continues, and that now when we are saying this is what the collective is, because the people who we've said these are the people who we will give the limelight or whatever are people who want the utmost good for the people, for the collective. And that's what part of even what we're curbing, and we're saying we will not allow corruption amongst our ranks, just the same way we do not allow it in government, because that microcosm that you've talked about, which is a very clear depiction of things as they are and things to come, if we are going to expect that of the politicians, if we let it reign free here, and the struggle just continues with us knowing these people and fostering them, and then just saying, oh, now currently they're part of the struggle. What if the struggle runs for 8 years? Now we have a rich person who's only
has been struggling.
Yes, who was in the struggle. Now when they get in, they just go in for the kill.
Accountability both ways.
Yes.
Accountability within
and without. Absolutely.
And what I hear you saying is now increasing civic awareness, using those spaces and opportunity to create more awareness on what needs to happen.
Yes.
For example, IEBC reconstitution is going to happen. Then you'll need to register as voters. Those that didn't, the 8 million plus that were should have registered as voters.
Right.
Make sure that they register as voters. Make sure then that you encourage more and more people. I'm seeing a lot of interesting things. Accountability, for example, people just going and looking at Auditor General's reports.
Yes.
And control of budget reports and saying, so this is what we are digging out of this, and exposing these things. It creates more awareness. And I think it's a good thing.
It is. I have people who now just have made it their life's mission to tell us an update. These are the public participation things for all the bills that are going to be tabled. Someone just gives us a proper schedule.
Yep.
People who've just said, I'll take this particular ministry. Guys like Professor, and now we're asking how we're going to help, that now we are going to harass BTOC next. We want our IDs out. We signed a petition when we were in court, Juicy, on Friday, for IEBC. So we are doing this thing, and we'll march on. Yes,
keep doing it.
Right,
accountability both ends.
Asante.
Kasmul Makore is an activist. He's a youth. He's been here. He's been our guest. Time for news, and into the next conversation. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto is expected in Kisii and Nyamira counties this week for a 3-day development tour. It will be the first time for the president to visit the Nyanza region since crafting his broad-based government that retained the influential education docket in the region. In his reconstituted cabinet, Ruto replaced former Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu with his 2022 running mate Migosi Ogamba. Since forming his so-called broad-based government, Ruto has been to at least 10 counties including Tharaka Nithi, Mombasa, Kwale, Tana River, Kilifi, Taita Taveta, Baringo, Embu, Muranga and Kirinyaga. Analysts say the president is using regional tours to pacify the ground following weeks of countrywide anti-government protests. DAPK leader Eugene Wamalwa said the president had been grounded by the protests.
Gen Z walikuwa wamelemea Zakayo, walikuwa wameshukisha Zakayo, mguu mmoja ulikuwa umefika chini. Kweli si kweli? Gen Z waleta shida, wakafanya a president who was a globetrotter to be converted from a globetrotter president to a resident of Kenya. Hili si mchezo. Tangu majenzi mwanze hii maneno. Leo ndio siku ya kwanza William Ruto ametoka Kenya amepanda ndege. For the first time. Tunasikia leo wameenda kule Rwanda, Kigali. Lakini tangu majenzi mwanze State House.
The Media Council of Kenya has said 24 journalists were attacked and injured by police during Gen Z-led anti-government protests. Speaking in Naivasha during a media stakeholders roundtable, the council CEO David Omoyo said cases of police brutality against journalists in the line of duty continue to be recorded across the country. At the same time, Paul Ilado, who represents the Kenya Editors Guild, called on the actors in the justice system to speed up investigations to enable prosecutions of identified perpetrators of violence against journalists.
During these Gen Z riots, we have 24 cases of harassment of journalists. We haven't seen any prosecution as yet. Investigations are either ongoing or evidence gathering and all that, but we have 24 cases. As other duty bearers, IPO, ODPP, the Inspector General, to make sure that we investigate and bring to justice those who are attacking journalists.
We are asking the actors in the justice system to speed up the process because as long as these cases remain unattended, the feeling then is that those responsible are not taking this seriously.
Hospitals in Muranga County will start using telemedicine to treat patients from next month. Last Saturday, the county organized a conference where stakeholders showcased technology such as mobile apps for e-consultations, e-theater, drones for delivering medicine, mobile theaters and dialysis centers. The county also received donations of 200 glucometers and 50 digital tablets to support the telemedicine initiative. The government has already installed internet infrastructure in all 160 health facilities, and telemedicine will be implemented in 44 of them in the pilot phase. Health facilities have also had solar panels installed to cushion them from high power bills and intermittent outages. Paul Kagame has been sworn in for a fourth term as Rwanda's president after winning 99% of the vote in last month's election. In his 4 presidential elections, he's always gained at least 93% of the vote. Several African heads, including President William Ruto, were among the many thousands who attended the ceremony in the packed 45,000 capacity Amahoro National Stadium in the capital Kigali. Kagame said he was honored to serve.
I can only begin by thanking all Rwandans for putting your trust and confidence in me. It is an honor to serve as your president for another term. To all our guests, friends and partners from near and far, your presence on this important day is very deeply meaningful and greatly appreciated.
That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
So North Airport Road had some issues earlier, and we are seeing that it's still very, very busy as you head towards town. And this is as you head towards the City Cabana. So comes all the way from the bypass into Embakasi, into the interchange with Outer Ring Road, into City Cabanas, and then you get into Uhuru Highway. No, Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road is moving. Imara Daima is busy up to General Motors. Then it moves. It comes all the way to South Sea. It starts getting busy as you approach Nyayo Stadium roundabout, but not so bad. Bunyala roundabout is where the issues are. Bunyala roundabout is very busy, and therefore Douglas Wakehuri, aka Aerodrome Road, is busy. Bunyala Road up towards Upper Hill is busy. Heading into Uhuru Highway into town is busy all the way to Haile Selassie roundabout, and so Haile Selassie is also very busy at the Green Park bus terminus into town. Busy. Kenyatta Avenue into town, busy. Thika Superhighway, how far is it stretching now? It's actually going all the way to the junction with Outer Ring Road, heading towards town. Muranga Road is busy as you approach Globe Cinema roundabout. In Westlands, you're okay until you get to Muga, and that is Brookside Grove. You'll get busy, get into Expressway, and then it moves. James Kishoro is okay. Limuru Road is also busy just slightly as you head into Muthaiga, but the rest of the roads not so bad.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
it's 8 minutes after 8. On to the third hour of the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room is on SpiceFM. SpiceFM is one of the 3 stations in the Standard Media Group that will be broadcasting the English Premier League from next weekend, right? The league new season begins, okay? So every day that Arsenal is playing, just tune into SpiceFM and you will hear the live commentary. We've got good commentators. They know how to do their thing, okay? They make you feel like you're actually there, right? Atangaza mpira mpaka you when he says chukua kwa kichwa, you actually now feel it.
You know, reminds me of
mpira umekuwa mwingi.
Bwana, mpira ulikuwa mwingi na zamani ambapo radio ndio ilikuwa the only means kusikiza football. Kadenge na mpira.
Kadenge na mpira.
Kadenge na mpira kama pata madegwa. Degwa na mpira.
Those guys were good, but
no, they were very, very good. Very, very good.
They were really good. Eugene Omalo, did you used to listen to football?
Oh, yes.
You listened to football.
Kabisa.
Well,
Leonard
Mambo.
Yes. There's a guy called Job Isaac Mwamto.
Job Isaac Mwamto.
Yes. He's the one who says, Vitu Kamam.
And then when he died, MDJ Difondo.
Yes.
Took over.
You know, they were really good.
Walitangaza mpira bana.
Sana tena sana.
Difondo.
Yeah. And the other now generation of kina Muhammad.
You know, I actually stopped listening after that era.
After that era, you stopped?
I stopped listening.
Muhammad Jumanjaguna Waida.
No, him I know.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why? Sasa, those kind of guys, Spice FM, Berur FM, Radio Maisha, weekends, every time there is English Premier League, just tune in. This is the only media house that has the rights to the English Premier League on radio in this country. So tune in. Eugene Wamalwa is our guest for the next 1 hour. He is the party leader of the Democratic Alliance Party of Kenya, DAP-K. You people keep calling it different things. The people will call it DAPK, DAPK, DAPK. DAP Kenya,
What
DAP
is
K.
And DAP K is
What does the party leader call it?
DAP K.
DAP K.
Yes.
Very good.
That's
a good one. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
To the conversation.
Thank you very much.
You know, CT has said that he's been told by medical experts that once you pass 40, at least twice a year, go for medical checkup.
Yes. It's important.
Twice a year.
Yes. Not once, twice.
At least twice. Right? It's important.
Yes.
Why is it important, Eugene?
Especially for prostate, I think at a certain age you need to keep checking. Yes, it's advised.
It's advised.
Yes.
So the Aga Khan University Hospital is actually making it very, very easy for you to do that. For only 9,950, beginning from there, you get comprehensive medical checkup at any Aga Khan University Hospital facility across the country. You know, they have the main hospital, then they have the branches, they have the clinics. So go to any Aga Khan University Hospital Center, 9,950, say, I've come for medical checkup, comprehensive. They'll do it. It's a good thing, isn't it?
I think that's a good thing, yes.
Yeah. To think about just making people have easier access to some of this. Prevention is better than cure. Knowing is better so that you know how to deal with it. City will give you the day's proverb. So last week but one, last week and this week, he's giving us proverbs from landlocked countries in Africa. Name one.
Don't mention Uganda.
Rwanda.
I should have mentioned Rwanda, but you're right.
Yes.
Rwanda is landlocked, yes.
This week they are from?
The Central African Republic. Yes.
But even Ethiopia, you know, what they were trying to do with Somalia, and they cut a deal. I think it has fallen through. There was a lot of pressure from Mogadishu, because the deal was done with Somaliland. Yes, yes.
So now they've.
No, I think
Mogadishu is in agreement.
No, I think there was a lot of pressure. So they must, Abiy must have gone back on that deal.
On whatever they had agreed on.
Okay.
The capital of this Central African Republic is Bangui. But let me just mention, it has a president and a prime minister in a national assembly. Okay? Now, the president is called Faustin Archange Toudia. The PM is called Felix Molua. Okay? Interesting country, one of the richest countries on this continent, and yet one of the poorest. When you look at the Human Development Index, it is the third. When you talk about poverty, number one, he, number two, he, number three. Wow.
Globally.
Globally. And yet they have many minerals, uranium, crude oil, gold, diamonds, cobalt, and the list goes on. That's what happens when you have a country, yes, that doesn't seem to understand that you need to put the people right at the center of your planning and thinking. The proverb, an elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
An elephant does not limp when walking on thorns. Mheshimiwa Wamalwa, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
I think that's like being in politics. You have to be like an elephant. You must grow very thick skin and hooves, because you walk on thorns everywhere you go. That's what politics is about. You wish you were that elephant.
Yeah.
Yes.
You constantly are stepping on thorns.
Insults, attacks, everything.
What?
So you're always stepping on thorns.
Yeah.
So you must grow a thick skin and thick hooves to survive in politics.
Very well interpreted.
Well, indeed. Now, you were covered and you were quoted in the Paper Daily just recently, and you were looking at the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The bottom-up agenda was the Kenya Kwanza Alliance's rallying call, and actually, it's their blueprint, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and you said, it's time we reviewed this thing, whether it's actually working. Time to ask whether Ruto's bottom-up agenda has made our lives better or bitter. Eugene Wamalwa. Correct?
Yes, I think I did say that. And, you know, we voted on the 9th of August. 2 years ago now, we have started the third year. When you listen to many Kenyans and you ask them, are your lives better on this third year of the Kenya Kwanza government? Are you better off than you were over 2 years ago? Many Kenyans are saying their lives have gotten worse. And we were at Bomas. We had this dialogue for almost 6 months. We listened to Kenyans across all sectors. They came, they spoke to us. And I think what was most shocking was actually officials from different government agencies who came to tell us what is happening in the civil service, how our health as a nation has deteriorated in terms of those who have gone into depression. The cost of living has gone very high. Many families cannot make ends meet. And we did actually ask the experts from this government. We had Professor Ndungu, he came, the CS National Treasury, he came. We talked to the energy CS, we talked to all of them. The cost of electricity has gone up. Someone who used to buy tokens, 1,000 shillings, would take you quite a mile over 2 years ago. But now those, you see the token shrinking, 1,000 bob, because of the cost of electricity going up. Every family is struggling. And we had, was it yesterday, they were saying it might still be going up again. You look at fuel, many of the middle class literally drive on E. There's a friend of mine who was joking yesterday that he can't remember when he last had a half tank or full tank. In fact, his car would be shocked if that if it moved above half tank because of the cost of fuel. Now, when our friends came in, they came up with this bottom-up thing. And everything actually literally moved from the bottom upwards. And the thing that changed the most was really the fuel. When we left with Uhuru, VAT on fuel was at 8%. There had been a push for it to be raised. Uhuru said, no, after COVID, when the economy improves, we might. But now let us maintain it. But when our friends came in, our bottom-up friends, they doubled from 8% to 16%. So when we asked these experts of bottom-up, what interventions have you put in place to make Kenyan lives better? And when you go through that Hansard of our discussions at Bomas, they said, oh, on fuel we have this G2G deal that was supposed to, cushion Kenyans. Then they said for the youth, we have Hustler Fund. We've given, was it over 50 billion to our youths? This is really going to help them. Then they also said that in agriculture, we have subsidized fertilizer. Then the fourth thing they said, we have also the housing levy. This is going to create jobs. When we are doing this affordable housing, to them that was really a master stroke, and it was impacting directly on improving lives of Kenyans. Then the fifth thing they told us at Bomas, we were talking about policy, bottom-up economic policies, interventions. They were talking about, I think, when the price of essential commodities went up, they came up with a KNTC deal. They took 16 billion taxpayers' money, and they said they were going to import these commodities from outside. Then the prices would come down, especially for edible oils and all this. Of all the 5 interventions, policy interventions that were put in place, when we grilled these experts of bottom up, they actually said the G2G did not work.
How come?
And when it fell through, it was actually a scandal. We wanted them to tell the country how much, in terms of billions, lost in that deal. Yes.
Before we go, actually, what is the G2G deal?
Actually, that is
fuel
something
importation. Because you sat with the experts and they took you through.
Yes. Now, when we sat with them, actually, when we grilled them, they were not. The thing was not making sense.
What's your
And at the
understanding
time, what they told us was that it was an intervention they tried, but it did not work. Then it also affected our relations with Uganda, because Uganda was also getting their fuel from here. And it was actually President Museveni himself who blew the whistle on that thing. That, there are people doing deals, bringing in fuel at a higher price, and it was actually affecting Uganda. So Uganda threatened to pull out. It was after a while that they addressed the issue.
So what was G2G?
So
from
the
what they
government
explained, because people don't
deal,
understand.
From what they told us, they went and engaged directly with the Arab states to be able to source the fuel at a certain agreed price, and that was supposed to actually come and stabilize the fuel price, because they had said they were not going to subsidize.
In addition to that, they moved from the 30-day credit period that they had, according to the G2G, to 180 days credit. Now, this was supposed to free up.
So it eases pressure on the dollar.
On the dollar. Okay. But instead, the dollar went up, you remember. And then they moved from the open tender process that they had to negotiate directly. So, actually, at Bomas,
essentially single sourcing.
Yes, at Bomas, they said they admitted that it had not worked. So that intervention failed. When it came to the Hustler Fund, many of the people you talk to, the youth out there, has Hustler Fund bettered your lives? Has it even impacted? Many of them say, well, I took 1,000 bob, but I didn't pay. Now, 1,000 bob would be a meal, or if it's the border. Once you fuel your border that day, it might not take you for 2 or 3 days. So that, in terms of impact, is very minimal. And I would say also that did not work.
Why do you think the impact would be minimal? Is it because of lack of awareness, lack of uptake, or because it is structured wrong?
I think it is tokenism that we're talking about. If you give one person 1,000 shillings, how would that change their lives? If you want to, say, start a barber shop, really, what you've gotten will be maybe enough for a haircut. But from our grilling of these experts, actually that hasn't worked much because many people did not pay. Of course, we've been told of a few success stories which are not very believable. But if you look at nationwide in terms of impact, the youth who have come out, these Gen Zs on the streets, they have said most of these things have not worked for them.
But why?
Yes.
I compare the Hustler Fund to the other funds that have been there before.
Yes.
The Youth Enterprise Development Fund.
Yes.
The Women Fund. Wezo Fund. And if you were just to talk about it anecdotally, you'd say that those funds have had little or no impact.
Yes, and
like
also,
many who would say more than 15 years of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, you really cannot say what the Youth Fund has actually done in terms of helping young entrepreneurs. If you look at the Women Fund, helping women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
If you look at the Wezo Fund, helping the marginalized entrepreneurs, and then come in the Hustler Fund. So why would we single out Hustler? What is the problem with these funds?
From our bottom-up friends, this was supposed to be a very transformative. It's a game changer that would raise that hustler from the bottom upwards, would change their lives. But when the experts came, they said maybe it wasn't properly structured, or maybe it wasn't well thought through. But they admitted that intervention had also its limitations. So the only thing that they actually said had worked, and give it to them, in the agricultural sector, the issue of subsidized fertilizer. This is, as a farmer, this is something I support.
You heard farmers who have received fertilizer.
Yes, but this was until...
And as a farmer, did you receive fertilizer?
No, I did not. But the one I received was fake. It worked until the fake fertilizer thing came in. There was a donation from Russia. Up to now, they have never accounted for that.
It was a donation, and yet people were paying for it.
Yes, it was a donation brought in, and I'm told, I think some unscrupulous fellows mixed it with something. And then they said, okay, we brought it down from 6,500 to 2,500. Up to now, the Russian free donation to Kenyan farmers has not been accounted for. Last time we heard, part of it disappeared in the high seas. I think that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. All the interventions, the bottom-up interventions, actually, this was the one that had worked, but it also went down with the fake fertilizer thing. So in terms of what we discussed at Bomas, you find that most of those interventions have actually not worked, and the cost of living keeps going higher.
It keeps going up.
But what has actually made lives even worse was how they brought in the finance bill 2023 that actually bottomed up everything. For the first time, I don't know if you guys recall, as long as we've been here, I've never heard of, the price of salt going up. It's the first time it's actually gone up. Chumvi. Huko is a chumbe. When you talk to ata chumbe, that's supposed to be almost something free. Water and salt.
Why is it going up?
No. Kiberiti, everything that they have added.
Why are they going up?
It is because of the
we don't import salt. So salt we mine from the coast and from up.
Yes.
So why would the price of salt be going up?
No, but it's because of what has been added. Literally everything has gone up. That's what we're saying, the essential commodities. But when they came to the KNTC now, they took the 16 billion and said, we are going to import all these things. As we speak, and I was listening to, was it Bill Okoh, who was saying the other day that the cost of edible oil is going to go up. Once you put those taxes on the excise duty, whatever, when they're importing these things, and you find the price of that edible oil going up, what does it mean? It means that chapati, that fellow kwa mjengo would go now, the maragwe they are frying there, the mandazi they're having, everything's going to go up. And the bottom up has cut across, and the minute you touch those essential things, you're touching that mama mboga. The fuel in that border, once it goes up, that young border fellow, whatever he was making also shrinks. So when you look at what Kenyans have said in the last opinion polls that were carried out, almost, was it 89% of Kenyans say their lives are worse off. They say their country is moving in the wrong direction. So these are facts that are out there, and the outcry is there. But it was worsened by the financial policies, the finance bills 2023 and 2024. We went out on the streets, pushed these fellows. They refused to reduce anything on that finance bill 2023. They said, and all members of parliament were called to State House, not a comma, not a full stop, don't remove anything. And mutalipa ushuru, mupende musipende. Hata mukiniita zakayo, bado mutalipa ushuru. That arrogance actually costed Kenya over 75 lives during those demos last year. About 2 weeks ago, the Court of Appeal actually declared that finance bill. It was struck down. Then comes the finance bill 2024. The Gen Zs happened to come out. At first, they said, you can't change anything through Twitter and WhatsApp. It will not work. These are our policies. And do you know we have lost over 60 lives? As we speak, there are still bodies at the city mortuary. We are being told different numbers, but as the opposition, we have demanded that the right figures be given. There hasn't been full disclosure of the people who are actually killed in these riots. But we are looking at 60, the official record, but it could be higher in terms of if all those bodies, because many of them have bullet wounds, meaning they were part of the riots, shot by Kenyan police, who are not supposed to use live bullets, but they have used live bullets. There are a lot of people who are still in different hospitals, who have been amputated, who still have bullets in their bodies, in different wards, in different hospitals. So we want to say this, that indeed Kenyan lives are bitter, and we saw the bitterness on our streets. In almost 36 counties, Kenyans came out, demonstrated. They were tear gassed. They were shot by the police, but they still came out. So this is where we stand as
tells you that there's something.
Yes.
There's something that's that people are unhappy about.
Correct.
And it's about time that the leadership then addresses it. Let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation shortly. The party leader of the Democratic Alliance Party of Kenya, DAPK, the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, is our guest this morning. We are talking about the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. It's written BETA. How do you pronounce it? Better or bitter? That's what Eugene is asking. Has it made your lives better or bitter? The bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We'll be back shortly. Keep it here.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good news. Good news for the soccer lovers across Kenya. Very soon your lifestyle will never be the same. Crazy, crazy memories of the lively football matches.
Happening every week.
Introducing the new season of the English Premier League football matches.
Another gem of a goal!
Starting on the 16th of August 2024, exclusively on SpiceFM. Catch the upscaled, heart-throbbing season's football commentaries from the ever-zealous soccer commentators and presenters. EPL, Soka Katambe. Only on SpiceFM.
What? My head is aching, shoulders paining, and it's like I'm adding weight very fast.
Now, by the way, see, I thought you are...
Nilifikiri umefanya ile kitu. No, I know what you are thinking. I'm not pregnant. Not now.
Now, when you haven't heard about Aga Khan Hospital, they have a wellness program.
Aga Khan University Hospital has made medical checkups more available through their subsidized wellness package at 9,950 for a comprehensive medical checkup. Don't wait for a health scare. Do your health check at the Aga Khan University Hospital clinics in your neighborhood today. Get your vitals checked today. Call 0111 011 888 for more information.
The weather with Spice FM.
Okay, it's partly sunny now in Nairobi. Temperature is at 14 degrees. It had dropped to 13 in the previous hour. Nyeri is cloudy at 15. Nakuru is mostly sunny at 17. Malindi is sunny at 26. Kisumu sunny at 21. Kampala is sunny at 21. No, let's come back to Kenya for a bit. Kakamega is sunny at 20. Eldoret is sunny at 15. Mombasa is mostly sunny at 24. Kinshasa, cloudy at 22. Johannesburg, sunny at 8. Lagos, cloudy at 25. Mogadishu, sunny at 26. Addis Ababa, mostly cloudy at 15. Dar es Salaam, sunny at 24. Paris, partly sunny at 21. Sunny as well in London at 20. And clear skies in New York at 22.
Spice up your life.
I'm coming to check on James Kishoro Road. It's actually not bad. James Kishoro is only busy as you approach the interchange at the mall. It's okay. And then Wayakiwe Red Hill Road is fine heading in towards town. Okay, Mombasa, no, not Mombasa Road, but Wayakiwe heading in towards town. It's busy just as you get to the expressway entrance, and that's Brookside Grove and Muga Green junctions. Then Ring Road Parklands is busy as you get, now that's where at the mall Westlands, it's busy as you're heading towards town. Ring Road Westlands is busy as you approach that area around the Delta building. Limuru Road is okay. Heading towards Gigiri, it's only busy around the Karura area, that incline at the Canadian High Commission, and then it eases off. It's busy as you approach the Museum Hill interchange with Ojijo Road. It's also busy on Muranga Road heading towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. It's busy on Thika Superhighway as you'd expect. It stretches all the way back to Survey, and Kiambu Road is also busy at Muthaiga. How's it looking like on Mombasa Road? It's busy only at the roundabouts, and this is at the Bunyala Road roundabout and the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. And then when you get to Imara Daima, it's moving. It's actually improved quite significantly on North Airport Road towards City Cabanas. It's looking a bit better.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Our conversation with the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa continues, the party leader of DAP Kenya. DAP Kenya is one of the constituent parties of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. Much more you've told us about, these interventions that the experts from government came to the NADCO team at Bomas, and you asked them about them, and they responded each. Talked about the Hustler Fund, the G2G, the edible oils, the subsidies at input with fertilizers. The government has been saying they're coming up with these interventions to bring issues back to reality, because we had lived with the illusion for a while in your previous administration in which you served as a cabinet secretary. So, for example, when it came to the oil subsidy, what you called a subsidy then, which was still just getting money from the Petroleum Development Levy, many oil marketers complained that they had not been paid. That yes, there would be a subsidy at the pump, and that was supposed to have been that the marketers would then get paid directly by the National Treasury. They were not getting paid by the National Treasury. So it was an illusion at the market, at the pump, but the reality is, in that value chain, it wasn't the reality. When it comes also to the cost of goods, power, you've talked about power. There was a subsidy that had been imposed on the power prices, which was the money was not being paid to Kenya Power to cover for this. When the president formed a task force to look at why power bills were going up, and he announced that there would be a 30% reduction by a certain time, and that 30% reduction was not forthcoming, then a subsidy was introduced silently into the issue of power. And those is the other illusion that we were living in. And then reality hit. Power prices had to go up because the National Treasury was no longer promising Kenya Power that it was going to give them that subsidy. What do you respond to that?
I think the main issue is cushioning the people, particularly the vulnerable sections of our population. And that is one thing Uhuru was very sensitive about. When he left, you remember petrol was at about 159 shillings a litre. And the subsidies were meant to cushion the mwananchi. And it's through those subsidies that we're able to keep those prices from skyrocketing to over 200. When our bottom-up friends came in, then doubled VAT on fuel. So it might be true that maybe some payments are still pending or whatever, but the ultimate objective of cushioning Kenyans was achieved. And
but this is the issue, though.
Yes,
that it's an illusion. It's what it is, smokes and mirrors. Mm-hmm. That's a game that the Uhuru administration was playing. That you're claiming that you are subsidizing and cushioning the Kenyans at the pump, but in essence, what you're saying is you're trying to get money from the taxes to put into these prices, which was not forthcoming. So oil marketing companies, and there was a time when there were oil marketing companies even had an issue with it, forcing the Minister for Energy then to even come and force the deportation of our oil marketing manager, is because the oil marketing companies were complaining. Over 70 billion shillings owed to them and was not forthcoming, and they were being forced to pass on this subsidy to the
But that
to
complaint
consumers.
wasn't just with the oil marketers in the Uhuru era, it was also with maize millers.
Maize millers
Yes,
as well.
yes,
There
yes,
was the Unga subsidy.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was called a subsidy. That Unga was supposed to be at 100 bob. And we kept asking ourselves, where do you get the Unga of 100 bob? CT went once to a supermarket.
I went several markets, several times, yes.
And found some.
There was an occasion I found some.
And then one occasion.
One.
And then many others, it didn't get others. Right?
Yes.
And then the millers to date say, for that, we were not paid.
I know there are pending bills. There are pending bills from the previous government, from this government. But as I said, it's not an illusion because the objective of cushioning the people was achieved and prices were kept low. But the pending bills might still be there. And I think that's something that needs to be pursued. But the objective of cushioning, when this government came in, they said we shall not subsidize. But eventually, they also started subsidizing, by the way. When they're talking about stabilization, it was a way of subsidizing.
It is.
So any government must create safety nets for its people, particularly the vulnerable in our society. You owe them that. Okay, and President Uhuru was very sensitive to that. And we went through very difficult times. You remember, this is when COVID-19 hit. This is when we had drought, we had floods at the same time. We had the locusts, we had everything. Almost 10 plagues hit the country at the same time. But even then, you remember Uhuru actually reduced taxes in the midst of all that. But what are these fellows doing? They are increasing taxes. And this is what is affecting many Kenyans, particularly the vulnerable ones. Down there, the mamambogas, the border borders, those are the people they promised the hustlers will be lifted. But they are the ones who have actually borne the brunt of the harsh tax policies and the legislations that this government has introduced. So we might not have been perfect, but under the Uhuru administration, we tried to be sensitive. We tried to create
at least being done.
safety nets. But these guys... Yeah. They are not.
My issue, Mheshimiwa, usually with this conversation is I see and I agree.
Yes.
Right? That it's important that we raise the questions that are live and we raise them at the point when they're live. Right now, we now ask the question, why must we raise the taxes this high? Why must we plan to spend 4 trillion shillings in a budget with the kind of economy that we are in? Why must we do this? Why must we continue with these programs if edible oil is a scandal, if G2G has been a scandal, if fertilizer is a scandal? We must raise these issues, right? We must raise these issues.
KNTC is the biggest scandal.
The edible oils one, yeah. All these scandals. If all these scandals are happening, we must ask questions. But I also look back and I ask myself, are they too disjointed or are they disconnected or are they the same? It's a continuation of one scandal that leads into another. And I say, we ask the questions from both you in your administration and this administration at present. Someone was telling me the other day, City, that it's like a homestead where the father has been taking loans and maintaining this high lifestyle in the family, taking them to expensive schools and buying meat, and they eat liver every day, and they don't even take cow milk. They take all these different milks and all this, living the life. But they've been borrowing until the auctioneers come. And the wife, who's been enjoying and has been knowing what's been happening, starts complaining and saying, oh, no, it's your father. In fact, she raises a ruckus and moves out with the children and goes to another different place. Children, same school. Lifestyle, same. But now the mother is changing a couple of things here and saying, we must maintain our outward appearance. You must go to the same school. I must drive the same car and drop you to school in the same car. You must appear. But at home, they no longer eat liver. They're only having a meal a day. In fact, you have supper and you're told, bakisha ya kesho asubuhi, So out there, you're living the same. Father, mother knew what they were doing and they still know what they're doing. And mother is still borrowing now from Chama when father was borrowing from Sako. Mother is borrowing from Chama and all these other places to maintain a fake lifestyle. It's the same. Jubilee 1, Jubilee 2, Uda, Jubilee, hashtag, whatever.
It's why it's called conspicuous consumption. Because then, at the end of the day, there's something Mheshimiwa said though. Yes, during the COVID era, something very unique happened. Indeed, the Uhuru government actually understood the need of ensuring that the circulation of money in the system continues. So they eased off on taxes. In fact, the really strange thing, strange for this country, of course, the budget projected at that time, I think, was 2.1 trillion. We actually met it.
The revenue projection.
Yeah,
True.
We met it. Now, we've asked the question here, how does this government think that by squeezing the living daylights out of our finances, this economy is going to grow? When it's common knowledge, it's not even something that requires you to be very educated. You just need to understand. When there's more money in people's hands, that's how the economy grows. And they are hell-bent on minimizing it with every passing decision that they make. Is this something they understand that we don't understand about economics?
We don't understand it, City, and I think that's why many Kenyans are saying Ruto must go, and they can't. I think they've been, like any rubber band, they've been stretched to the snapping point. And for those young people to have actually stormed our parliament, they were outside parliament. The parliamentarians could hear them. They were the gates of parliament. Please don't pass this bill. And when the hour reached, I think it was almost, was it 3 or what time it was, and they arrogantly passed that bill. And what got out? Those kids went wild. They said, we are here, they can hear us, and they are still passing this bill. They breached the walls of parliament and actually entered parliament and entered the chamber and sat on the speaker's seat. I think at that point, I think that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. There had been demonstrations. These bills go through stages: first reading, second reading, third reading. The people of Kenya were at the gates of parliament when they passed, arrogantly. I think that is when all hell broke loose. And people get to a point and they say enough is enough.
Mheshimiwa, this is your opinion. What's the Azimio position?
Azimio, I think, as you know, we have our own challenges presently. I'm glad my brother Peter Munya was here. He talked very candidly about it. I can say, City, all is not well in the Azimio house. We cannot pretend that all is well because we went out to fight for Kenyans. We were on the streets with them. We suffered injuries. We lost lives. We pushed this government to repeal the Finance Bill 2020. They did not. They called us to talks in Bomas. And when we went to Bomas, they want to talk about everything else, creating the offices of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, creating the offices of Leader of Opposition with 2 deputies, more offices for women reps. And when it came to the real Wanjiku issue, cost of living, they refused. When it came to the issues of taxes, they said this is a no-go zone. And eventually, when the NADCO report was complete and we went through, and the cost of living issue had not been addressed, I was a dissenting voice in the team of 10. I refused to sign because we did not do justice to the single most important issue, which was cost of living. And I told them this will come back to bite us. And it came back in the form of the Gen Z. I think as Azimio, I still feel we let them off the hook at Bomas. We were lured into this dialogue it was really a trap to cool down the country, to buy time, but they had no intention of addressing the real issues that took the people to the street. It was not about those office. People didn't die for Mudavadi to get an office or for Raila to get an office. They wanted their lives bettered, and this was not achieved at Bomas.
Do you think
and this is why, had we, and I must say this, had we addressed this thing last year, our Gen Z children would not have come out. Had they not again arrogantly brought an even worse Finance Bill 2024, these lives lost, 75 lives last year, over 60 or 100 lives this year, would not have been lost. This was a preventable situation. And this is why we're saying the buck stops with Ruto. He must take responsibility. So for us as Azimio, to actually go into bed with Ruto, it is betrayal of the highest order. And this is why, as we sit here today, in Azimio, we said this yesterday in Thika in Kiambu County, I think we have reached a point of divorce. In a marriage, when grounds for divorce arise, one of those is when you have irreconcilable differences. When a marriage breaks down irretrievably because of infidelity, then the court grants that divorce. I think that is where we have reached, and we have disagreed as a matter of principle, because people are saying Okoh Kenya from Zakayo. But part of Azimio is saying to Okoh Zakayo. The two are irreconcilable differences, and that is where we have reached. I know Martha Karua has been here. She has already given her notice as NAC Kenya of quitting Azimio. Peter Munye is here. He has also given notice. Very soon, Eugene, Wamalwa and DAP will give notice. But these are matters that we are now addressing. So, City, I can tell you, as Azimio, we have lost direction, and we must. We have sinned against the people of Kenya and fallen short of the glory. That is something I must say this morning to Kenyans. But we are doing something about it, and very soon you will hear from us.
You know what? Peter Munye was here last week. Yes. He's talked about various options. One of the options would be to see if you can reconcile as a unit that Azimio is. Another option would be that the individual parties then walk out. And he says he had wanted to walk out, but the leadership of PNU told him walking out alone doesn't serve the interest of PNU. You need to walk out. You need to work as a collective. So the other option is walking out as a collective. What do you think? Which of those three options sounds palatable to DAP-K?
This morning I can say all options are on the table. But irreconcilable differences have a reason in the Azimio coalition because of the decision of one of our affiliate parties, ODM, agreeing to go into bed with Kenya Kwanza.
One partner has cheated.
Yes, and infidelity is really a ground for divorce. When we had Bombers, one of the principles was fidelity to multi-party democracy. William Ruto is an existential threat to our democracy. He's an existential threat to devolution. He started from day one cannibalizing the opposition. Azimio won the majority in parliament. We had almost 175 members of parliament. Before these members were sworn in, he started by buying off. We had UDM, almost 7 or so members, to crossover. Then he cannibalized Jubilee, took almost 26. They crossed over to his side. Then he went for ODM and took about 8 members of ODM. So when we were at Bomas, one of the main issues was the issue of fidelity to multi-party democracy and saying no to cannibalization of political parties and killing multi-party democracy in Kenya. And we said this must not be allowed. So for our colleagues in ODM, which had partially been cannibalized, to agree to be fully cannibalized by the same political cannibal is really something that we cannot understand ourselves. Because when you take the leader of ODM and support him to Addis, then you take his 2 deputy leaders into your cabinet.
And the chairman.
Then you take the national chair of that party into your cabinet. Then you take the leader of opposition himself, because the minority leader in our current setup is the leader of the opposition, into your cabinet. Then you have swallowed the entire leadership. You have actually swallowed that party. So to me, when you're talking about a government of national unity, there isn't anything like that. This was just completion of the cannibalization process of the opposition that William Ruto has achieved.
Mheshimiwa, I have to ask this question because it reminds me of something that African leaders like going on about colonialism. the colonialists did this, that's why we're where we are. Our police service was a police force in colonial times, that's why the way we are. Why is it that we never seem to learn from the colonial masters and do what they do well? If you have somebody who happens to be the chief executive and he is good at convincing people to join him, it shows that you people are not good at preventing him from getting your people to move towards him. So he is proving to be better at this thing. We may say it's not constitutional, we may say he's breaking the rules, we may say he's not playing cricket, but he has done it. And all that the opposition seem to be left doing is complaining that he has done it.
Without a gun to your head.
Yes, exactly. And you're all politicians. You're all politicians. How is it that there's no comeback to all this? Because he seems to be doing it. He's doing it. ODM is the big brother partner in Azimio. If I were to use your terms, it has been cannibalized. So, what is left of Azimio?
ODM is just one of the parties in Azimio. All the other parties have said no to joining Zakayo. The Democratic Action Party of Kenya held a National Executive Council meeting, and we took our position that we will not join Zakayo. NAC Kenya did the same. Wiper has done the same. Jubilee has done the same. And PNU, as Peter Munya said, was the latest party to say no. So where we have reached is to agree with our brothers that you cannot be on both sides of the aisle. You cannot be in government and be in the opposition at the same time.
So, have the other parties called for a meeting of Azimio?
Yes, we have, and that is why I'm saying we are in the process.
When is the meeting?
It is ongoing. Consultation started. We had a meeting last week, and the meetings are going on this week.
Was ODM
so the matter is going to be
part of the meeting?
ODM was part of the meeting. In fact, it's not the entire ODM that had actually agreed to go into government. You have heard of voices of reason, like Governor James Agri Bob Orengo. Orengo has been very categorical about this. So it is an internal issue which we don't want to interfere with. ODM is a democratic movement. We respect their democratic right to make decisions whichever direction they wish to go. But what we are saying is that you cannot be both in government and in the opposition. You cannot run with the hare and hunt with the hounds. You cannot do that. You can't be on both sides. So this is where we have reached, and I think we're in the process of seeing how that matter can be sorted out, or a divorce is effected between all the other parties and ODM in Azimio. So this will be made public very soon, but the processes are ongoing.
They are ongoing. Yes. What's the position of the Azimio Council Chairman, Uhuru Kenyatta?
I think he will be part of the ultimate meeting that will make that decision, and you will hear from him.
So far, what is his position? Because you see, many times people get angry with me when I say Azimio, and it's just like NAC Kenya, rudderless.
Yes.
But now here we are. So the leader of Azimio has been quiet when all this has been happening. The candidate, the principal in Azimio, has blessed his people to go into government.
Yes.
The deputy has said we have walked out of Azimio. The other principals are the ones now who are making noise. What? Surely.
Where are we exactly?
Yeah.
We will be...
Why are we still talking about Azimio? Let's just...
No. The Azimio is still a coalition that is existing. And very, very soon a statement will be made as to the future of Azimio.
Has Uhuru called a meeting of Azimio?
That meeting is coming, and he is the chair. We will be able to hear from him and the entire council as to whether we remain in this marriage or we divorce. So that is coming. And all I can say this morning to Kenyans is that all is not lost. There are still those who believe in Kenya remaining a multi-party democracy and who will not fall into the trap of William Ruto killing multipartyism in this country. We do know, City, as you have said, He's a very shrewd politician. And his political mentor was none other than the professor of politics, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. That's where he was mentored. And when you look at the moves he's making, and anafuata nyayo, this is how multipartyism was almost killed in Kenya. It was actually killed, and Kenya became a single-party state. William Ruto is setting the feet of this nation towards that by cannibalizing the opposition. And some of us are saying we will not allow it, even if it means parting ways with some of our present allies.
Okay.
As a matter of principle. That is where we stand. And I think it's Thomas Jefferson who once said that in matters of style, you can swim with the current. But in matters of principle, you stand like a rock. That is where we stand.
DAP-K party leader Eugene Ombaso has been our guest. He says, ndoa imevunjika. That's basically it. 9 a.m. Good morning.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has told leaders to decide whether to side with the youth or back President William Ruto's administration. Speaking on Sunday at a church service in Makongeni in Thika Town, Kalonzo said leaders should not appear to be attempting to please both sides.
You're either with the Gen Z and the people of Kenya or with Zakaria. It's as simple as that. Me, I want to invite all the Kenyans of Godwell bila kujali misingi yetu ya kikabila. Tuungane, tuokoe nchi yetu hii. We do not have another country. And God give us strength.
Barely a week after taking the oath of office, cooperatives and MSME's Development Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya has said he'll resign should his advice to the government be ignored. Oparanya, who spoke at a church service on Sunday, is among 4 ODM members who were appointed to President Ruto's cabinet.
Wale watu ambao wametoka Kakamega, mnaona ile kazi nilifanya huko. Hao mimi sikufanya kazi. Si nilifanya kazi. Ndio kwa sababu hao wameangalia wameona huyu mzee anaweza kusaidia kazi. Si ndio? Nitawasaidia, nitawasaidia, lakini kiwaambia twende njia hii ni wanakataa, mimi nitajiondoa na nirudi kwangu.
Embakasi East MP Babu Owino has declared that he wants to lead the ODM party if Raila Odinga wins the African Union Commission chairperson seat. Addressing a roadside rally in Nairobi on Sunday, Babu had expressed confidence that Raila will win the seat in early next year's elections.
Hivi sasa mandugu wetu wengine walishaenda, sasa chama imebaki na nafasi. Baba Raila Odinga pia by February next year ataenda Addis Ababa. Addis kwa baba. Baba akienda babu ndio anabaki. Kwa hivyo hao watu wote wajue, mandugu zangu na madada zangu katika chama chetu ambayo tunapenda. Baba akienda hivi, jitayarishe uanze kufuata Babu Owino. Kama unataka uwe safe, fuata Babu Owino. Wale ambao watafanya kazi na sisi, tutafanya kazi nao. Wale ambao watafungua vita na mimi, nitawakimbiza mpaka chini ya kitanda wao.
This comes after the ODM party settled on Governor Simba Arati and Abdul Swamad Nasir and Vihiga Senator Godfrey Ososi as its deputy party leaders. The party also retained Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna as Secretary General and party spokesperson. Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga has been picked to replace John Badi as the national chairperson. A judge has said courts are recording an upsurge in cases related to climate change due to increased public awareness and a rise in the number of organizations dealing with the problem. Jackie Mogeni said both the national and county governments have already enacted the climate change law, which seeks to address legal gaps in tackling climate-related issues. She spoke in Naivasha during a training for 51 judges of the Environment and Land Court organized by Haki Jamii and the World Wildlife Fund. Mogeni, who is president of the Pan-African Association of Judges on Environment, Land and Labor, said the training will enhance legal, scientific and policy developments on climate change and biodiversity. At least 17 people are now known to have died after a landslide at a massive rubbish dump in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Rescuers are continuing to dig through the west in the hope of finding more survivors after the landslide, which followed weeks of torrential rain. The 36-acre Kitezi landfill is the only one serving the whole of Kampala, a city home to an estimated 4 million people. A huge hill formed by the build-up of rubbish collapsed late on Friday night, burying houses on the edge of the site while residents were asleep. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
North Airport Road, yes, it's busy just slightly around the pipeline, and then it clears up as you head in towards City Cabanas. There's something happening around the Imara Mall, and this is at the junction with Imara Daima, heading out towards the airport. It's busy. Something there, just be patient. You'll know what it is soon. General Motors is now cleared. Just a slight traffic there, but this traffic is always there. Kenha, please, design issues, okay? When you get towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, you'll find just a little bit traffic with the Langata Road and the Lusaka Road, and then you get into Bunyala roundabout. Bunyala heading towards Upper Hill is okay. Bunyala coming into the Uhuru Highway is just slightly busy. Aerodrome Road is busy. Get into Uhuru Highway into Haile Selassie Avenue, then it gets busy. What we know is that Jogoo Road has been busy this morning, and Landis Road is still as busy. We also know that General Ringe Road coming on towards Ring Road is busy, and this is around Kariakor, and then that it clears off. It's getting better as you approach the Museum Hill roundabout. It's actually clear as you get to the Globe Cinema roundabout. It's also okay. Thika Superhighway is getting better, and Wangari Maathai Road is moving. Limuru Road is moving. Westlands towards town is moving. Ring Road Westlands is busy around the school, and that is heading towards Delta, towards the highway.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation.
The final hour of The Situation Room today begins right now. And thank you very much for keeping it locked wherever you are, on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, on TikTok, on KTN, on SpiceFM, from Nairobi to the country, to the region, to the globe. Asante for keeping it locked. This final hour is going to be the first hour we're marking International Youth Day. This final hour we're marking World Elephant Day. I told you, there's a press conference today. The elephants have called a press conference in Amboseli. They want to address the country. No, they want to address the world, and they have issues. And the person who understands elephant language has now come here so that she can tell us she's seen the press release, she'll interpret it for us, and then she will go to Amboseli, where she will be the translator as the elephants are talking.
So you're saying the elephants have spoken to her? And she has come to tell us what the elephants have said?
Yeah.
All right.
Dr. Paula Kahumbu is the CEO of Wildlife Direct. Daktari, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Karibu sana. That's the hot seat of The Situation Room. Okay. How does it feel?
It's not, still a bit cool.
Very good. Very good. Now, Siti will tell you about the Aga Khan University Hospital and what the message that they have for everybody, which is on wellness. Checking your wellness periodically.
Yes. It is easy to take your health for granted. And that is why every once in a while we hear of an emergency. Usually, the emergency was resident in your body all along. It's just that you didn't know. And then when it makes itself manifest, they say it doesn't knock on the door. It actually just comes jumping out and screaming and telling you, you end up in hospital. Now, what a check does, especially if it's a comprehensive one, it gives you a clear indication of the state of your health. And once you know that, then you will know what next to do. This is important so that if indeed you are unwell, the disease doesn't take or doesn't gain sufficient ground of a foothold to the point where it's more or less telling you how long you might live or rather how short your life might be. The Kenyan University Hospital is saying for a sum, not $2,000, 9,950, if you go to any of their sites, any, throughout the country, you will be able to get a comprehensive test for that amount. Simply go there and ask. It's better to be safe and it's better to be sure. And the only way you can do that is if you have a thorough checkup.
That's true.
Yes.
Don't you agree, Paula?
I totally agree. In fact, I need to go do my own checkup.
Yes. It's about time.
Yes.
It's about time. So City will give you the day's proverb. So every week City goes to an African country and mines proverbs from that country and gives us a proverb a day. For these 3 weeks, this is the third week in a row, he's giving us proverbs from landlocked country in Africa. Name one. Not Uganda, not Rwanda.
DR Congo. South Africa?
No, landlocked.
Sorry, landlocked.
Landlocked.
Landlocked, yes.
Central African Republic.
How do you know? I told you she speaks elephant language. Now, because you said Central African Republic, we are actually in Central African Republic today. And because today is World Elephant Day, the proverb today is City?
Yes, from Central African Republic, and it's about an elephant. Yes.
Wow.
An elephant does not limp when walking on thorns. That's today's proverb.
Wow.
What's your interpretation of that proverb?
Wow. What it means to me is that, if you're that iconic, gigantic, so great, something like a thorn might hurt, but you will not show the pain.
The pain is insignificant enough for you to show.
Or you don't want people to see it.
Because you're big enough, you're too big to fail.
Yes.
To show weakness.
Yes.
It's a good one as well. So what's happening in Amboseli?
Well, it's not just Amboseli. Kenya has elephants in different parts of the country, but there's one very special population. That is the Amboseli Kili West population. This is a population that straddles the border with Tanzania. There are about 2,000 elephants. They've been studied there for 51 years by Kenyans, Cynthia Moss and a team of scientists. And these elephants have been protected and recognized for the value that they've contributed to our knowledge about elephants. You said earlier, the elephants have spoken. Actually, the latest research shows elephants indeed do have language. And they even have names for each other. And this research is what's coming out of Amboseli. It's one of the least disturbed populations, which means that they represent what elephants should be. And if you go to Amboseli, elephants will walk right up to you. They're so calm, they're so habituated, they've been studied for so long that they don't see humans as a threat. So they're very, very tame, in a sense tame. You can't obviously stroke them, I wouldn't recommend it, but they are the place where millions of tourists come to see them because they're very calm, relaxed, they'll come near you, but they are also the source of the largest tuskers in the world. That means they have the largest tusks. We call them super tuskers. And the reason why we have so many there is because this population has been protected, it's never really been poached much, and it's never been hunted until now. So hunters in the past have always agreed not to touch research populations of elephants. They've always respected this is a research population, don't disturb it. These big bulls are very important in their societies. They play a very key role in maintaining the balance, especially among the bulls and behavior. They police the behavior of the younger bulls. And the governments of Kenya and Tanzania have also forged a mutual understanding and an agreement about the importance of these elephants for tourism, for science, for ecology, for our heritage, even for our communities. And I don't know what happened last year. Tanzania issued permits to hunt those elephants on the Tanzanian side in a place called Nduimet, which is one of the game management areas. They had 5 permits. They shot 5 elephants.
What do you mean 5 permits?
Tanzania normally issues about 100 permits for hunting elephants per year.
Why?
That is Tanzania's management policy. I am not in any position to explain why. That is what they do.
Okay.
We don't do it in Kenya. We have very different management policies when it comes to hunting.
What does that mean, management policy?
Oh, so in Kenya, we have no hunting whatsoever. We have not had any hunting since 1977 by law. And if you're caught hunting, you're punished quite badly. In Tanzania, they've had hunting. And it's part of their practice. It's part of their culture now. They practice hunting. You can hunt a dik-dik or an elephant. But you have to pay the government, and it's how they generate revenue for the management of their wildlife.
Okay.
But this particular population was off limits until last year. The ownership of this particular conservancy or conservation area was transferred to a new company called Kilombero North. They decided that they would hunt these elephants. The conservation community immediately, raised an alarm. And they started burning the carcasses of these elephants. In the past, hunting, it always has had not such a good name. And so hunters have tried to sanitize it and say we are ethical. We only kill older elephants which are no longer breeding. We don't hunt females, for example. We behave in a very ethical and transparent way. But when you're burning a carcass so that the scientists cannot identify that elephant, it raises a lot of questions. That animal, they used to say, we hunt elephants and we give the nyama, the meat, to the communities, and that's one of the benefits the communities get. But if you're burning it, you're obviously not doing that. They're burning it and burying it. And we're now also hearing that some of these guys are even using helicopters to herd the elephants into the game management area so they can hunt them. So the elephants are outside and they're coming in. Why is this unethical? These elephants are so tame, as I just said. They've never been hunted there before. So you can imagine it's like shooting your pet dog. This elephant is going to walk right up to you. It's almost tame. And so for some hunter from America or Germany or wherever they're coming from, to sit there and shoot this animal just to take away these gigantic tusks, which are about 100 pounds each, put them on their mantelpiece and tell a big story to their friends about how they almost died and how they saved the community from these dangerous animals. That's really what it's about. It's ego.
It's the story that they give.
It's ego, yeah. And I think it's shocking that they're taking out these super tuskers. The one individual elephant that we know by name, his name was Gilgil. He was only 35 years old. But because he's a super tusker, he was very, very big. So they assumed he must be very old. And they said he's old and he's beyond his breeding age. Well, he wasn't. In fact, Gilgil, we now believe to be the son of another elephant whose name was Dionysus. Dionysus, at the age of 63, was still breeding, and Gilgil was only 35. He hadn't even reached his prime. Elephants reach their prime in their 40s, 50s. So you can imagine now you've lost this elephant to the population. You've lost the genetics of that elephant for all future generations, so that one individual from abroad can take home this trophy.
Okay. So let's start. Amboseli is managed by the Kenya Wildlife Service.
It is in transition, actually.
Yeah, it's in transition, but currently.
Yes.
It's for until now.
Yes.
It's under the Kenya Wildlife Service.
Correct.
The elephant population in Amboseli then is protected by KWS.
Yes.
Right? Do they migrate? Do they cross over to Savo, to Chulu?
Oh, yeah. These elephants move over huge areas.
Okay.
The elephants in Amboseli number about 2,000. And we know that I think about 600 of them cross the international border. It's literally right there. Amboseli is right on the border. So they cross into Tanzania, they go up Kilimanjaro, they move in lots of different directions.
Okay. So on the Tanzania side, how are these conservation areas managed? Is it government? Is it private? Is it community?
It is under what they call game management areas. So they give concessions to companies to run them. And those companies are usually interested in them because of hunting.
Okay. So a park will be given to a company.
It's not really, I wouldn't call it a park. National parks, there's no hunting inside of national parks.
Right.
That's just a conservation or maybe a name which signifies there's no hunting inside a national park. Surrounding the parks are what they call game management areas. And in those areas,
these are like conservancies.
It's kind of like a reserve. In Kenya, we have reserves which are under the county. They're managed by the county, but the county could also choose, and conservancies are privately owned. In this country, they're privately owned.
Yep.
In Tanzania, these game management areas are still owned by government, but you can take a lease on a game management area.
Okay. So when it's issued to a private company, does it come with conditions?
It does come with
This is
conditions.
what you should do
Absolutely.
to continue the conservation of the flora and fauna here.
Yes.
Okay. And those conditions would then be the ones that restrict you from hunting unless you're given a license.
Exactly.
So then there were 5 licenses that were issued last year, you said?
Yes.
And 4 jumbos were killed.
5 elephants were killed, of which 4 we believe to have come from the Amboseli population.
The Amboseli population.
Yeah.
4 of them had crossed over into TZ.
Yeah. I wouldn't say crossed over. These elephants live in both countries.
Okay.
Right? I don't want to say we own them, they own them. No. I mean, these elephants live in an area. They don't care about international boundaries.
Okay. This company that is currently managing this game management area, how long have they been in this particular park?
Oh, they only got the license for this particular location, I think in 2021.
So just about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why they wouldn't know that Gilgil is a young super tusker.
If you are
Because
in
they're
the
saying
hunting
that-
business,
Yeah.
if you're in the hunting business, right, it is assumed by the hunters who are coming from abroad who are spending big money that you as the hunting
guide.
company, you know how to age an elephant.
Okay.
They should know how to.
So there's no excuse for them.
No.
You
There's
know,
no
you can't say that, maybe this one, it's 35, but it looked 95.
There is no excuse. And look, they've come into an area, you can't tell me a company has come into an area and hasn't done research on why have they never hunted elephants in that area? Why did the previous concessionaires never hunt elephants in that area when there are so many elephants, and especially big tuskers?
Something I'd like to understand, when people permit big game hunting, there's a logic behind it. Or what is this logic? If it exists, of course.
Money?
Beyond money. There are those who say it's culling. Maybe the population of that particular group of animals has grown. There are many.
See, Tanzania has 60,000 elephants.
60,000.
Taking out 100 is nothing to do with managing numbers.
How many elephants again?
100.
60,000.
They have 60,000.
Population.
They hunt 100. Because you can't hunt babies or females.
Yes.
You can only hunt the bulls. Removing bulls is not going to stop your population from growing. It's not going to reduce your population.
How many do we have?
Kenya has around 40,000 elephants now.
How many elephants do we need or not? No, let me reverse the question. No. The ecosystem within which the elephants breed, what is a number that you'd need to have to reach saturation point where you say this ecosystem cannot take this number?
So I don't think that's particularly relevant to this case because we're not talking about overpopulation. Tanzania's elephants in the last 10 years declined by 75%. And that was because of poaching. You remember in 2012, there was a sale of ivory to China and Japan.
Yeah. Yes.
And we did hands off our elephants in Kenya, and we were able to actually stem the loss in Kenya. We lost maybe 3,500 in total. Tanzania, at the time, had over 120,000 elephants. They lost 75% of them because what we saw was industrial scale poaching in Tanzania, ivory being shipped out of Dar es Salaam and moved across to Asia. So Tanzania doesn't have too many elephants. No, not at all. Tanzania's elephants are recovering.
The reason why I asked the question is because we're talking of elephants, and elephants must be talked of. I mean, they stand out. But sometimes I'm just saying it's important to ask an answer and get an answer, because every time, for instance, when that fence was built around the Abaderes, there was a story of elephants encroaching on people's farms. There was a story of trying to ensure that they are protected. Now, it's a story that always comes up. Now, our listeners would like to understand some of these things.
Sure.
Yes. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, I get you. So sometimes it's not about the numbers, it's about the individuals. Elephants are so intelligent. They are very intelligent. If an elephant figures out how to get into your farm, it's not only going to go there, it's going to train all its mates how to get there. No matter what fence or what barriers, whatever you put in place, that elephant is going to train the
elephants have cartels.
Elephants, they do.
So
actually.
bring a gang.
And especially the bulls. They don't live with the families. You know, elephants are matriarchal. They live the matriarch is the oldest female usually, and she lives with her daughters and their children. So they all stay together in a family. They stay largely inside the park, and they move out at night and they go and they feed. But the bulls live separated from the females. They leave at the age of about 11. Now, these animals are kind of like humans in terms of our age span, so you can imagine it's almost like a preteen has to leave home and go and join the boys. They live in bull groups, and they move to a different area where they feed and grow. And they live in groups where they have their own social structure, very different from the families. There's usually a very big bull who is in charge of all of them. And that bull will have his askaris. I don't know if you remember when we used to talk of Ahmed in Marsabit and Satao. They had their askari. So a big bull will have a bunch of other bulls who are always around him. And that big bull is the one who sets the tone for the culture of that group of bulls. And what we have found is those big bulls are usually the calmest, the gentlest, the most generous. When we were filming Secrets of the Elephants with National Geographic a couple of years ago, we were in Amboseli and we were watching a big group of bulls, and one of them, a younger one, was like bashing a tree and trying to knock it over. All the others were standing around waiting, because when a tree falls, they get to eat the leaves at the top, which are very nutritious. And the biggest bull, his name was Tolstoy, by far the largest of all the bulls. He waited, and he waited aside. He allowed all the bulls to feed. So all the bulls are there munching away. They're having, you can hear them rumbling. They're so excited. There's all this food. And the noise of the cracking tree attracted a family group, females and their babies. They came running when they heard the cracking of the tree and the tree falling. And the big bull Tolstoy, he stepped aside, and all the bulls followed him. And they moved to allow the family to feed. Now, this is the kind of behavior that you only see in a place like Amboseli, because we know these elephants, we know them by name, and you know who's Tolstoy and who's who. When you see this kind of behavior, you see that actually these animals are so intelligent, but also they're calculating. Tolstoy wants to probably mate with those females, so he wants to show generosity. And he's teaching all the other bulls the same lessons. And so if you remove Tolstoy, these big bulls, you're left with a bunch of youngsters who don't have a teacher, they don't have a mentor, and those are the bulls who are the most dangerous.
Anarchy.
Those are the
remove.
Those are the delinquents.
They form their own political party.
They are. Those are the guys who raid the farms, who don't know how to behave. They don't know what to do when they're in trouble. They don't have anybody telling them to get out or to move aside. Those are the young guys who cause the most trouble. So keeping the big bulls in place is very important if you want to stop human-elephant conflict. By the way, it's not only elephants. It's the same in baboon society, probably the same in human society.
Probably. It definitely is the same in human society.
Look at it. Go down to Maasai land. They always tell you what is the Laibon's view, right? They always say that. And if something goes wrong, the Laibon makes a statement, and then all the young men behave.
How long have you been studying elephants?
I started working on elephants when I was in my 20s. At that time, Kenya was, I think, in the worst place possible when it came to elephants. We had a mountain of ivory in our storeroom, and I was asked to do the stock take because we were about to burn in 1989. We were about to burn all that ivory. That was a really heartbreaking moment for Kenya, and I thought we had lost it. We'll never recover because our elephants were dying at such a fast rate. I don't know if you guys remember. It was headline news every day. Elephants being slaughtered. The military were involved. The authorities were involved. And, elephants were just being slaughtered everywhere. And it took me a few years to come back to elephants. And it was because of having a mentor, Joyce Poole, having time down in Amboseli with the Amboseli Trust for Elephants, Cynthia Moss and her teams, Katito, Nora and Soila. These are Kenyan women who know every single elephant by name. And I was taken out in a vehicle with Nora and Soila, and they introduced me to these elephants by name. Oh, you meet this so-and-so. And these elephants will hear their voices and walk to the car and come and stand and just lean in. It was clear that they had a very special relationship with these elephants. They'd already been studying them for decades, and the elephants knew them. The elephants knew their vehicle, they knew the sound of their vehicle, and knew the sounds of their voices. And they would just laugh. It was just like a day of such pleasure. I was there for 2 weeks. Every day was so much pleasure. They would tell me, oh, this is so-and-so. You can tell this is a female, this is a male, this one is this old, this one had a fight with so-and-so, this family doesn't like this family. It's like a soap opera in front of you. In Amboseli, every family is known. Every family has a name, and all the individuals in the family are also named. So the scientists can tell if somebody is in the wrong family or visiting a family, or if there's about to be a reunion of multiple families. They sometimes come together and have a big celebration. It's really amazing to see them.
It's fascinating what you're saying, because the size of an elephant, I'm talking about myself, is threatening. Just the size. It hasn't done anything. And the first time I ever encountered an elephant was in the Aberdares.
Yeah.
And we were told, because this elephant that suddenly walked in the middle of the road, and its ears were flapping, and we're told we're reversing gently backwards because that elephant is agitated. And I asked, why are they agitated? And I was given some lengthy story. The time I was in the Mara, but this time was different. We're in this vehicle, and there was a bunch of elephants in front of us. That fellow knew what he was doing. He said, we're going to pass through these elephants. And I said, okay, this is where
this is it.
This is it. Why did I even bother to come in the first place? Because I've stayed at home, watched a movie, and watched these elephants while watching the movie on National Geographic. And the elephants walked, and we actually drove right through the elephants. I got to the other side.
Nice.
Are you saying, the reason I'm telling these stories, it's what you've said is what has made me think that elephants, just as we study elephants also study us.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much evidence for this. So the work in Amboseli has been going on for so long, and they've done some very interesting experiments as well. And I want to answer your question about why that elephant stood in the middle of the road. It's very possible that he was in must. Must is a condition that was actually first identified in elephants in Amboseli by the work of Joyce Poole. She was studying elephants. She noticed the bulls go through a stage of heightened aggression, and actually it's just when they're about to breed. So they go through, it's like they're in heat, but it's the bulls. And the females also do go into heat. We call that estrus. And what happens is these bulls, when they grow to a certain size, it's only when they reach a certain size. It only happens when they're in their 30s. Imagine, they can't really breed before that. They reach a stage where they can get into must. And the better condition they're in, the more frequently they can come into must. And they cannot breed unless they are in must. That heightened state makes them walk like tall. Like really, they stomp around. They dribble urine as they walk, and the females can smell it, and we can smell it, actually. Right. It's quite stinky, but you can smell it. The females love it. They follow them.
Elephant in must, you can actually now tell this, the smell of this
and
urine.
You can even tell from looking at it. So you said you saw the elephant, he was big, he was flapping his ears. Yeah, so when an elephant is in must, he stands tall, raises his head, and if you look carefully, you'll see beside the eye there are two bulges. They are the size of tennis balls, and that is the gland that is producing the I guess it's a pheromone. And his brain has become very different from before he was in must. He becomes aggressive, and he only has one thing in mind. He doesn't want to eat. He just wants to find females. So he will be on the search. And you'll see those bulls. If you go to Amboseli, you'll see family groups scattered around, and you'll see big bulls, sometimes solitary, sometimes two of them together, or you'll usually see others behind, walking behind. They're just hopeful guys. But the main guy will be walking ahead very intentionally, aiming for certain females, and he'll walk and he'll go and find every single female, and you'll see him using his trunk and smelling all the females. And if there's a female in estrus, he will know it, and he will try to persuade her. Usually he will she will run away. They don't usually agree straight away. Takes a bit of time. Usually the females will run away, and the male will start chasing and run until they come to some agreement. And then usually the family will all gather, and the mating is like a whole family affair. Everybody will surround them.
Watching.
And then they'll be trumpeting. It's a very entertaining thing to watch. But what's interesting is if one male is in mast and another male is in mast, and there's a family with a female in estrus, then the males will really, that's why they get into this condition, is high levels of testosterone, and they will just see each other as enemies. And they will smash heads. That's why the bulls, if you look at the skull of a bull elephant, it's really massive, and it's full of holes, so they bash each other's heads, and you can hear the tusks clashing against each other. Sometimes they'll even break their tusks, because one bull has to win. The female will actually wait and see who's the winner. So only a few bulls will ever be in mast at the same time.
Okay.
I think you saw a mast.
So there has to be
those guys are very dangerous. They can be very dangerous because they just want to show off. If there isn't another bull to fight, they'll even throw a tree. They'll throw a car.
A tree. Oh, goodness.
They will do something to prove their strength. In Kenya, we never hear of them really throwing cars. It's very rare. But in other countries, if you go to Southern Africa, you often hear of elephants sitting on cars, throwing cars, tossing even a lorry. They will do things.
Bulls in heat.
They just want to prove their strength.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes and by the way, elephants that are stressed and terrorized, elephants who get hammered as a result of human-wildlife conflict or injured, they may be carrying spear tips or arrows, or they have, whatever injuries they have. They're also very dangerous. When they're in pain, they can be very, very dangerous because their brain is also not working properly anymore. They're in a lot of pain. They're full of stress hormones, and they will just see any human as a threat. So you always have to watch the behavior of the elephants, and the guides are very good at this. The guides are brilliant because they're usually from the local community, and they know elephants. They can tell this elephant is just playing. Sometimes they will play with you. They will even run up to the car and wag their ears and throw dust on you.
That's playing.
Sometimes.
That's how they play.
Not always.
My encounter with elephants is with these Amboseli elephants. Nowadays, there's a place called the Kimana Conservancy. So there's a fence that's been put up to shield the farmers in Kimana from the elephants. Before that fence, I encountered these things. Waking up and staying all night, watching that they don't get to your farms. And you have to beat on drums. And, people from the other side are just saying because they have seen the elephants coming. And if they enter your farm,
that's it.
Kwisha. School fees, imeenda. Just like that.
It's a big problem.
It was a big issue. Nowadays, that fence has really, really sorted out. And the Kimana Conservancy has actually protected the area because of the fence. Elephants, go to Kimana and say at the elephants that they are gentle, nice animals. People will ask you,
which elephants are you referring to?
Let's take a break.
Funnily enough,
we'll be back shortly. Dr. Paula Kahumbo is our guest. She is the CEO of Wildlife Direct. She's here today as we commemorate World Elephant Day. Actually, of all the years, we've never really had a World Elephant Day conversation.
No, I've heard this for the first time.
It's an elephant. First time we're having an elephant conversation. There's something that's happening across the border with Kenya, Tanzania, and hunting and elephants in Kenya. And today, the elephants of Amboseli are speaking, and they've sent Dr. Paula here to come and pass the message.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What? My head is aching, shoulders paining, and it's like I'm adding weight very fast.
Now, by the way, I thought you are...
No, I know what you are thinking.
Now, when you haven't heard about Aga Khan Hospital, they have a wellness program.
Aga Khan University Hospital has made medical checkups more available through their subsidized wellness package at 9,950 for a comprehensive medical checkup. Don't wait for a health scare. Do your health check at the Aga Khan University Hospital clinics in your neighborhood today. Get your vitals checked today. Call 0111 011 888 for more information. Good news. Good news for the soccer lovers across Kenya. Very soon your lifestyle will never be the same. Crazy, crazy memories of the lively football matches.
Happening every week.
Introducing the new season of the English Premier League football matches.
Another gem of a goal!
Starting on the 16th of August 2024, exclusively on SpiceFM. Catch the upscaled, heart-throbbing season's football commentaries from the ever-zealous soccer commentators and presenters. EPL, Soka Katambe. Only on SpiceFM.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's warming up in Nairobi. It's now 16 degrees and partly sunny. It's also warming up in Kakamega, 22, mostly sunny. It's the same in Eldoret, 17, mostly sunny. Same in Nakuru, mostly sunny at 19. It's still a bit cold in Nyeri, cloudy at 15. It's also warming up in Kisumu, 23 and mostly sunny. Malindi, 28 and sunny. Mombasa, 26 and sunny. Kampala, light rain showers at 23. Kinshasa, the same, partly sunny at 23. Mostly cloudy in Lagos at 25. Mostly sunny in Mogadishu at 28. Cloudy in Addis Ababa at 18. Dar es Salaam, sunny at 25. Kinshasa, sunny at 23. Johannesburg, sunny at 11. How's it in Beijing? 30. Sunny. Sunny in Paris at 23, London cloudy at 21, and it's also 21 and clear skies in New York.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Huyo sio mwizi, alikuwa anakojoa pale Gara. It's moving in Gara, but it's heavy as you approach the Globe Cinema roundabout. Also, Kipande Road is clearing up. It's looking a bit better. Now, Wangari Maathai Road, the junction with Ojiji Road coming into the National Museums, is an issue there. It's the slight traffic. I think there's always an issue with museums. If there's school children coming for a trip at the National Museum, congestion, buses trying to enter, they'll create a lot of traffic there. But I think this one is not so bad. It's okay for a bit. Parklands Roads and Ojiji Road junction, there's some traffic. Thika Superhighway has cleared. Now the only issue is at the underpass into Wangari Maathai Road, which is also moving. Westlands into town is okay. Mombasa Road into town is okay. Jogoo Road into town is okay. Landis Road into town, it's busy. And also Wakulima Market is still busy.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's World Elephant Day, and Dr. Paula Kahumbu speaks Elephantese. She's here with us to translate to us the language of the elephants and tell us, the life of elephants and the elephant population. That's a very interesting thing to understand how males and females behave. So when they move from one area to the next, who leads them?
Well, when the bulls are moving, I think it's usually the biggest bull who makes all the decisions. But it's really hard to tell, because as you watch elephants and they are making decisions about where to go, we cannot hear them. They communicate in a subsonic way. It doesn't reach our ears. Only they can hear it. And we know that sometimes somebody even at the back can be giving directions. And so you have to watch their body language. What are their ears doing? What are their feet doing? And if you go to Amboseli in particular, because it's very open habitat, or in Masai Mara, and you watch elephants, you'll see they'll start walking and then suddenly everybody will stop. They'll freeze. And it's like everyone has been told, wait, stop. And somebody in the group will make a decision, and then they will keep moving. So we believe that the matriarch actually makes the decisions for the family groups, but sometimes you'll even see a group will start appearing to split. And then at some point, the matriarch will just stand her ground, and everybody will have to get back in shape and go the way she wants them to go. She doesn't have to lead from the front. She can lead from behind.
Since they have a language, there must be a study that has been conducted as to how to understand what it is they're saying. From what you've said so far, it's you watch how they behave And when you look at how it is coordinated, you realize there's someone in this group that is coordinating it. Now, are there any sounds that elephants make, because elephants make sounds, that you've been able to understand and interpret? Like when they trumpet, as we call it trumpet.
There's a signature trumpet that means happy, or a signature trumpet that means angry.
There are what we might even call words, because they will arrange them in different ways for different contexts.
Patterns,
yes. Yeah, so they've been recorded for a long time by Joyce Poole and her team at Elephant Voices, and they have been trying. You can play back a sound and see. So what do they do? So in this way, there's some interpretation going on. And with the benefit now of AI, you can do a lot more. And so the research is still very, very nascent. But it's been shown for whales, especially for sperm whales, that these animals have language. And elephants and whales are quite similar in the way that they communicate. So what we do know right now, you can predict it, right? An elephant trumpet is sometimes a scream, a call for help or something. But a rumble, and you'll hear rumbles like... very, very low sound. It sounds like an engine idling.
Yeah, like something happening in the stomach.
And it sounds like something happening in the stomach. Because sometimes you can't even hear it. You can just feel it. You can just feel it on your body. You can't hear it with your ears. and that sound, that rumble, it's obviously a vibration, sounds of vibrations. Those sounds might be contact calls. Hey, guys, I'm here. Come over. They can use these rumbles to communicate over vast distances, kilometers. Because those sounds and vibrations move not only in the air but also through the ground. And they can listen with their feet, with their ears, and with their trunk. There's no other animal that has that ability. Maybe fish. Fish can feel vibrations with their whole body. But elephants can actually feel with their feet. They have special cells in their feet and special cells on the tip of their trunk. What that means, if you can imagine, an elephant might be 5 kilometers away and is sending you a message. And it's just coming in the form of a wave, a vibration in the ground. If you position your legs in a certain way, you'll be able to tell which direction is coming from. In Turkana, the people called elephants thunder. Because when thunder happens, the elephants arrive. And the elephants arrive because they can hear thunder, sometimes over 100 kilometers away. So they can hear the thunder, they can hear the rain pounding the ground, and they will arrive. So people associate thunder with elephants.
So what
Isn't that amazing?
Use the ears for? I mean,
I know, such huge ears.
Yeah, what for, right?
I mean, come on, man. They're like satellite dishes.
If they can use the...
Yes.
They clearly are obviously used for listening, which is one of their most important senses. But mostly their ears actually are for cooling. Because you'll see they're always flapping. And if you look closely at an elephant's ear, especially when it's flapping it this way, you look at the back of the ears, you'll see just a web of veins. And if an elephant cuts its ear, it bleeds a lot. And so I would say it's like equivalent to our feet. When you're really hot, the first thing you want to do is get your shoes off. For elephants, it's their ears. And when elephants are overheated, they will take water and they will always spray behind their ears. I'm sure you've noticed that. They always spray behind the ears. And then they flap, and that cools their body down very quickly. But their number one sense is, by the way, is not even their listening. Number one sense is their nose. Their nose and their sense of smell is, I'm told it's...
Why is the elephant's nose?
Their trunk.
Okay.
The longest nose in the world. How could you miss it?
Okay. Because it's also the hearing thing, it's a picking thing, it's a hand, it's
exactly.
Everything.
The Maasai call it their mokono, the hand. So it's used for a lot of things. It's strong, but it's also very delicate. It can pluck a hair, but it could also punch you and send you flying. So they have over 150,000 muscles in their trunk. They can make it short, they can make it long, but the smell, the sense of smell is so strong. It's something like 40 times more that of a dog. So it means that they mostly can identify each other by smell, and they can identify people by smell. You asked me about their communication and how they know people, how they study people. Well, by sound and also by smell. So studies have been done to play back sounds of certain languages of certain communities in Kenya, and the elephants behave very differently. If they hear Maasai's, they get a little bit tense. If they hear a language of a tribe they've never encountered, they're not so bothered. So they know languages. They know that this language is a people who could be a danger, and this language is from a people who are not a danger. But also the smell If you put clothing from certain peoples on the ground and other clothing or blankets from people which have no smell, they will avoid the one with the human smell, and they will play with the one that is without a smell. So they can also detect human smell, but I think it's more than that. Just like us, when we taste or something, it's a combination of senses, right?
Yeah.
It's the mouth feel, it's how it looks on the plate,
the smell of it.
The sound of its crunch, whatever, how it sounds. So it's multiple things that, multiple senses that come to play together. And with elephants, you can tell when you're sitting in a car and an elephant is looking at you. You can tell if it's like curious, if it's angry. It's examining you and it's reading all your senses. Like, is he tense? Is he hot? Is he sweating? Does he look nervous?
Is he preparing to attack?
You'd think that I would ordinarily just be close to an elephant and say, okay, let's read each other, shall we?
Are all elephants the same? Because, for example, the zebras, we'll say there are zebras from this side, the zebras from the north, the zebras from the south, the giraffes the same. If you went to Turkana, would you find the same elephant that you find in Amboseli?
That's such a great question. So the reason why we are bringing attention to the Amboseli elephants is because they are unique, because they have this gene, a preponderance of the gene for super tuskers, so they have these huge tusks. Elephants have cultures. So while they're the same genetically, they are the same elephant species, and we have two species in Africa, by the way. We have African savanna elephants, which is the ones we have, but there's also African forest elephants, which is a totally different kind of elephant. They look different, they act different, they're very, very different. But the savanna elephants, the differences between them are mostly in culture. So when we were filming Secrets of the Elephants with National Geographic, I traveled all around Africa, and I was amazed. You go to Zimbabwe, and the elephants have figured out how to navigate very steep cliffs. By using their trunk, they make it into a ball, and they reach out, and the cliffs are very crumbly, and you could easily lose your footing and go tumbling down the cliff. But the elephants use their fist, they punch the ground as they walk and try to find where is the hard ground, and then they put their foot exactly where they punched the ground.
Right.
And that saves them going on a very, very long journey in order to get water. So they teach the babies. I watched one baby coming, and it was stumbling and tripping and sliding, and the mother was like holding it, like, behave yourself, like, stand here. And they like really manage the babies. If you go to other countries, let me think of another. There were just so many amazing things we saw in their culture. In Namibia, in the desert, the same savanna elephants living in a desert, true desert. They will walk through the valleys, and the trees are very tall, and most of the branches are out of reach for the families. The bulls will walk, pluck branches, and leave them for the families to come and get them. So they have these cultures which are very different from location to location. And if you brought a Kenyan elephant to Namibia, it'll probably die. It probably could not survive in that terrain. Has not learned. So they learn so much from their families, and they pass on this knowledge from generation to generation.
So apart from the huge tusks of the Amboseli elephants, there's nothing else. There's no other physical difference.
No,
lighter skin, darker.
Not
nothing.
really. In Samburu, we have some elephants which have pink patches on them. That's a genetic strange thing which is unique to that population. Every population is kind of determined by its environment. So if you go to Shimba Hills, the elephants there live in forests. They live in small families. You'll find there 4 or 5 individuals in a family. But if you go to Amboseli, a family could be 20, 30 elephants, sometimes 40, and they will all stay together. So they live in a wide open environment, and you find elephants change their social structure and their behavior depending on the environment around them. If they need water, they will do longer migrations. If they're in a very dry area, if you go to northern Kenya, they do huge migrations, thousands of kilometers. In Amboseli, they move daily from the park to the outside and back into the park. So it's very, very much associated with the physical environment that they're living in and the food resources that are available to them.
How do they manage their elderly?
Oh, what a great question. So an old elephant is so interesting. They are like humans, but
How old is old for an elephant?
They don't get arthritis as far as I know. So elephants will live into their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
That's old for an elephant. Maybe mid-60s. They don't die from cancer. Actually, it's unknown in elephants, cancer. But what you do see is older elephants, they lose their teeth. They, unlike us, we grow, our baby teeth fall out and then our permanent teeth come in. For elephants, they have 6 sets of teeth and they emerge from the back of the jaw. They move through the jaw and they fall out, one tooth at a time. The name Loxodonta, Africana, Loxodonta.
So the first
means,
tooth grows at the very back.
Yeah.
And then it moves.
Yeah, their name Loxodonta refers to the tooth. Actually, the shape of the tooth is like a loxodonta. It's a big thing like this, and it has ridges across it, and it's designed for grinding grass or grinding up bushes and things. So as they grind, it wears down and it falls out. And then another one comes in and another one. Only 6 times.
How many teeth does it have?
They're only 6 in the end. They've got the tusks, which are their incisors. And then they have this lozenge-shaped tooth, which is a big tooth here. And it'll be like one, and maybe the other one will be falling out and another one will be popping up from behind. So usually it's like one big tooth in there. And by the time they're in their 60s, they're on their last one.
Someone is asking
and it's smooth. It's like so smooth. It's like this, it's like the table. And they can't grind up food anymore. So such an elephant cannot eat rough food. So it will stay in the swamps. It will stay in places where the food is soft. And the family might stay close to that elephant. And when an elephant gets very old, eventually it will die of starvation, not from disease or other old age-related diseases. And the family will stay with that elephant. When it dies, they'll stay there. They will stay around. They will grieve. They will sometimes put sticks on it. They might try to raise it when it's dying. But they will all hang around and they will mourn for a long time. And then afterwards, they will go away. But they'll come back again and again. They'll come back and they'll
keep coming back.
They'll keep coming back and touching the body.
Someone is asking whether they have a justice system.
A justice system.
Yeah. What do you do to those that break the law?
Do they ostracize errant members of their community?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it could help us a lot, eh? I have seen females definitely chastising their daughters. If their daughters are behaving badly, maybe...
What's behaving badly?
Behaving badly might be their baby. The baby needs to be protected and the baby is not being given enough attention. Usually everything is around the babies. They're very family oriented. And sometimes you'll have 2 large females in a group and they're both fighting over leadership.
Right.
But I haven't ever seen an elephant. I've seen the big bulls coming in, or even the matriarchs will poke another one in the butt with their tusk if it's in the way of the food or not going the right direction. They will poke them with their tusk. And young bulls will fight each other, but it's not so much about justice, but it's usually the older female. And I suspect that so much is going on in their communication that we cannot read or hear. They're talking to each other all the time, constantly having conversations and multiple conversations, like having your computer open with multiple windows, because they're not only talking to the family here, they're talking to the family which you can't even see. They're talking to others all over the place. But usually what
so there's no banishing.
I've never seen banishing, but we've only studied them for 50 years. That's not even the lifetime of one elephant. And it's one population. We have so much to learn from these guys.
Okay. So there's some sort of justice system.
There's a justice system.
There's a punishment.
Yeah.
If girls are left to take care of the kids and they don't take it, tomboys are identified.
They are brought to order. The differences you mentioned between the forest elephant and the savanna elephants, what are these differences?
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize it until I went to Congo to see for myself. The forest elephants are smaller, much smaller. So I saw one, and it came out of the forest with what appeared to be the mother. And I was like, oh, what a cute baby. Look, it had huge tusks, but it was a tiny little elephant. I mean, it was so small. I was quite blown away. Their eyes, many of them, their eyes are golden. not, ours are brown or chestnutty. Theirs are golden. They're so amazing. When you see them, it's kind of spooky. They live in forests. They live in small family groups, sometimes only 3-4 individuals. They don't live in big groups. There's not that much grass in the forest, so they eat fruit and leaves, those kind of things. They are very aggressive, extremely aggressive, and that's because they've been persecuted for a very long time. Their tusks are not like ours. You know how bulls have tusks like this, or like big tusks. Theirs are very straight and quite thin. They can be quite long. And they're quiet. They're so silent. Ours are playful, rumbling, and all this stuff. I didn't see that with those elephants. They were very, very quiet, and very alert. Actually, they're very, very sensitive, extremely sensitive to every sound. You have to go on the river and just quietly, go on a boat without the engine, and just sometimes people even get in the water and walk just in order to get close to them, because it's very, very hard to see them in the forest. But they form these amazing trails in the forests, and many, many elephants will use them. So when you go in to the forest, it's like a spider web of trails, and those trails are where they've been pooping, and so that's amazingly, it's almost like they're farming. So they're pooping, and then the vegetation that they've been eating, the seeds, are now germinating. So that's why they call them the farmers, the gardeners of the forest. So along their trails is all this food. So they then keep reusing the trails. So now these trails become these open passages through the forest, which are used by people and many other animals as well. So what you often hear from people when they say, even in Kenya, in some of our mountains, you can't climb the mountains anymore because the forest has just become so thick. You can't get through. It's just thorny bush. And they say when the elephants were here, they would make these pathways. They would make the roads for everyone to use.
The agrarian revolution started with elephants.
Yes.
Paula, thank you for joining us today. It's a very, very interesting conversation. Many have said, yes, they've learnt a lot just from listening to this conversation, just getting to understand about elephants. Dr. Paula Kahumbu is the CEO of Wildlife Direct. She understands Elephantese. She's been here talking to us the language of elephants on this World Elephant Day. It's commemorated every 12th day of August every year. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. See you again tomorrow. It's a minute after 10.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. DAP Kenyan leader Eugene Wamalwa has dismissed President William Ruto's bottom-up economic approach model, saying that the recent countrywide anti-government demonstrations are an indictment of the model's failure. Speaking in an interview with SpiceFM, the Situation Room, this morning, Wamalwa also dismissed the Hustler Fund as tokenism.
I think it is a tokenism that we're talking about. If you give one person 1,000 shillings, how would that change their lives? If you want to, say, start a barber shop, really, what you've gotten will be maybe enough for a haircut. Of course, we've been told of a few success stories which are not very believable. But if you look at nationwide in terms of impact, the youth who have come out, these Gen Zs on the streets, they have said most of these things have not worked for them.
A vaccination coordinator in Trans Nzoia County says more than 6,000 children are yet to be vaccinated against various diseases, including polio, tuberculosis, and pneumonia. Benson Buluma has advised parents to make sure that their children get the jabs.
Under 1 year in Trans Nzoia County, tuna watoto 32,229. Wale watu ambata chanjo ni 26,051. Karibu watu 6,000 hawajapata chanjo. Hao ni watu ambao kesho utaona either ni wagonjwa na pneumonia, wako na kifua kikuu in future, wengine wako na ugonjwa kupooza because hawakupata chanjo. Wasichana wa miaka 10 hadi 14 tuko na 73,753. Wale wenye wamekamilisha chanjo ya saratani ni 22,126. Cervical cancer inaua wamama 4,000 kila mwaka.
Hamas has said that any resumption of ceasefire talks about the conflict in Gaza should be based on previous plans rather than holding new rounds of negotiations. Last week, international mediators from Qatar, Egypt and the US urged Israel and Hamas to attend negotiations on a ceasefire and hostage release deal on Thursday. Israel responded saying it would send a team of negotiators to take part in the meeting. Negotiations faltered last month after new terms were introduced to the framework presented by US President Joe Biden in May. On Monday, the leaders of the UK, France and Germany issued a joint call for talks to resume, saying there can be no further delay. That's the news wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Here's the sports.
Chance here, there's the opening goal, rifled in by Martin Odegaard, linking beautifully with Kai Havertz.
Good morning. Kenya is among the countries that came out with more than 10 medals from the recently concluded Paris Olympic Games. Kenya won 11 medals, including 4 gold medals, 2 silver and 5 bronze. Faith Kipyegon took gold for the 1500 meters race, making history by winning the race in 3 consecutive Olympics.
I just want to thank God, I also want to thank these amazing ladies for pushing me to these limits. It's just amazing to run with these fast ladies and, to have made history and win gold medal for the third time. It was just by God's grace. I don't know how I did it, but it's just history. Yeah, I'm so happy.
Beatrice Chebet clinched 10,000 meters and 5,000 meters gold medals, while 20-year-old Emmanuel Wanyonyi walked away with gold medal